Sportsnet. Presented by Honda. We've been fans since day one. Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays and proud fan since 1977.
Welcome back to Baltimore. Utah Street outside of the right field wall here at Oriole Park at Camden Yards as the Orioles take the field to start the 2017 season. And Pat, you talk about a couple of teams that are evenly matched. These two teams, the Blue Jays won 10 of 19 last year, and they had that great wild card game.
And they're 1-2 in home runs and earned run average. I mean, everything about this team is so close, and you know that this is going to be a great series.
John Gibbons is set with the Blue Jays lineup. Let's take a look at the way it stacks up today. Devin Travis. He did not play his first game last year till May 25th. He's at top of the order. Then Donaldson Bautista, and of course Jose Bautista. He loves to hit against this Baltimore pitching staff. He leads Major League Baseball with 75 ribbies since 2010. Kendrys Morales right behind him has hit well here in this ballpark. He's the DH in his first season with the Blue Jays. Tulowitzki, Martin Pierce, the former Oriole, at first base. Kevin Pillar and Ezekiel Carrera round out the lineup to face Kevin Gausman.
He will get the call to start on opening day for the Orioles with Chris Tillman on the disabled list. Gausman went 9-12 last year with a very good earned run average of .361. But he was the Orioles' best pitcher the final 2 months of the season. 8 wins and a 24% strikeout rate in that second half that really helped that earned run average to get down to .361. He's got great stuff. He's refined his breaking ball just a little bit over the winter time. He's always got that devastating slider, so the Blue Jays are going to have to be very patient with Gausman, make him throw a lot of strikes.
One thing you know you get with the Baltimore Orioles is a good defensive ball club. This is the way they line up today. Hyun-Soo Kim is in left field. Adam Jones had a terrific World Baseball Classic. He's in the center. Seth Smith in his first season with the Orioles starts in right. Manny Machado and J.J. Hardy, a couple of Gold Glovers on the left side. Jonathan Scope played all but 3 innings last season at second base. Chris Davis and newcomer Wellington Castillo behind the plate for the O's.
First time in 8 years that the Orioles have a new #1 catcher. No Matt Wieters. He's now in Washington. Wellington Castillo comes over here to catch the majority of the ball games. Castillo hit 33 home runs last year, 32 of them as a catcher. That's the 6th most in Major League Baseball.
Devin Travis takes the first pitch in there for a strike, and we are underway. Devin flew back from Florida and joined the Blue Jays here last night. Got 12 at-bats in the minor leagues down in Florida. This got a chance to drop. This ball is going to drop for a base hit. Devin Travis is aboard, first base hit.
Means so much to this team in that leadoff spot. He can hit. He's a career 300 hitter after his first 2 years in the big leagues. That looked like it might have been the curveball from Gausman. He's got a slider and he's got a curveball trying to refine it, and Travis fights it off, punches it in the right field.
Kevin Gausman made 3 starts against the Blue Jays last year. He was 0-2. In fact, he matched up with Marco Estrada in 2 of those 3 starts. The other start, he faced Aaron Sanchez. This is Josh Donaldson batting second here this afternoon. Takes it downstairs for a ball. Donaldson coming off another great season. 284, 37, and 99 for the 2015 American League MVP.
And right now, Josh has been locked in. He's using his legs just a little bit more, and it's helping him to drive the ball into the outfield. You know, the thing about Josh is you just saw the great numbers. 37 to 99, high on-base percentage, but he doesn't get cheated. He has got a great understanding of the strike zone. He'll take his share of walks. Ideal #2 hitter for the Blue Jays.
Saw his great run over the last 4 seasons. 413 RBIs. He takes that ball downstairs. This has been a question on the minds of John Gibbons, DeMarlo Hale, the entire coaching staff. Who should hit second and who should hit third? But it's really kind of interesting because both Donaldson and Bautista get on base very effectively. Donaldson over 400 last year.
Power hitters, but they've got a great eye at the plate.
3-0. At the green light, pops it up. Foul ground. Castillo, the catcher. Davis, the first baseman, calls for it and makes the catch. Donaldson. Green light, 3-0 pops out.
Right fielder, number 19, Jose Bautista.
Well, the old saying goes, they don't boo nobodies. Bautista, a couple of different stints on the DL last year that forced his numbers down. Just 22 homers and 69 RBIs for Jose. 1 out. There's a strike.
Yeah, he'll cause a stir wherever he goes, especially here in Baltimore. Bautista at one time was an Oriole.
Part of his journey around baseball in 2004.
2004, he got 12 plate appearances, and believe it or not, they waived him.
Everybody waived him that year. He went from Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Baltimore, back to the Pirates. He was all over the place. Nobody gave him a chance to play. Jose, a 6-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, and of course a 2-time home run champ. 36 years old, and everybody's happy he's back with the Blue Jays.
And like we showed in the lineup there, an Oriole killer over the last few years. 75 driven in against the Orioles. It's tops in the major leagues.
Bautista in this ballpark has hit 13 home runs. His average just 206 batting here against the Orioles. But he's done some major damage. Inside corner. 1-2. Chopper to able to stay on the bag. Bautista out 5-3 on the ground out. Travis goes to second on the play, but there are 2 outs.
Well, you'll get a lot of fastballs from Kevin Gausman, and will throw his share of breaking balls. Now he's got that devastating splitter that he will use very effectively, especially to get strikeouts. But curveball, slider, he's trying to separate the two this year.
Kendrys Morales getting his first at bat in the Blue Jays uni. You see his numbers from a year ago. Spent 2 years with the Royals in Kansas City. Figures to be the everyday DH for the Blue Jays.
What's the best way to welcome yourself to a new team?
Hit a 2-run homer.
First at bat in the first inning. Do something dramatic.
Morales is now 33 years old. Signed originally with the Angels back in 2005. Boy, he's got a good eye. Pat, what are the benefits of having a switch hitter, a guy that can hit cleanup in your lineup?
Well, I think we saw that in the playoffs last year, where we saw a lot of the Cleveland Indians pitchers, right-handed pitcher with a lot of breaking balls. If you top-heavy your lineup with right-handed batters, you're going to run into guys who can throw that curveball over for strikes. It just makes it easier having lefties.
Swinging a drive to center field. Jones back at the wall, at the track. That ball's going to be caught. Kendrys Morales gave it a ride, but it falls short of the mark, and the Blue Jays leave a base runner on in their half of the first. When we come back, Marco Estrada will take the mound for the Jays. Blue Jays with an 89-73 record a year ago. They played in the wild card game, and the Blue Jays won that game in extra innings. Newcomer Seth Smith will hit leadoff. Then down in the DH spot, Mark Trumbo. He led the league in home runs last year. He hit a career-high 47 home runs. He re-signed with the Orioles, and Jonathan Scope, he wore out the Blue Jays last year. The second baseman hit .311 against the Blue Jays compared to a .267 regular season average, and the veteran J.J. Hardy brings up the rear, batting ninth, playing shortstop.
And that's the lineup that Marco Estrada will face this afternoon. First opening day start of his career. He was an all-star last year, and he deserves this start for the Blue Jays. He's pitched in some really big games for the Blue Jays over the last couple of seasons in the playoffs, getting into the playoffs. He was 2-0 last year against the Orioles. So this is the right guy to face and put out on that mound for the Blue Jays to open this season. It's a fastball hitting team, the Baltimore Orioles, and Marco's got one of the best, if not the best, changeup in all of baseball.
Marco Estrada, very pleased to be making his first career opening day start. He is set. This is Seth Smith, who takes a first pitch strike. Smith, coming off a good season a year ago in Seattle. .249 batting average. 16 homers, part of that potent Mariner lineup a year ago.
That's the stat that jumps out at you, the 16 home runs. You don't think of Seth Smith as a home run hitter. He's got a good eye at the plate. Buck Showalter's got him out that top of the lineup because of his high on base percentage. And if you make a mistake, it can very quickly be 1-0.
Ball on his strike. There's a fly ball to right. Bautista has a beat on it right at the edge of the warning track, and he makes the catch. One away. Well, Marco Estrada is a fly ball pitcher, and he's going to get a lot of play in the air, and with that, Ezekiel Carrera gets the start in left field. Kevin Pillar, he's the everyday center fielder, and Bautista, good to see him back in right field with the Jays. On the infield, Donaldson, Tulowitzki, Travis, and Steve Pearce, the former Oriole, starting at first base and behind the plate. The veteran Russell Martin doing the signal calling for Marco Estrada.
There was some concern if Devin Travis was even going to be here for opening day, but here he is. He's already got himself a base hit. He has worked very hard in spring training, got himself into get that knee back in pretty good shape, and here he is to start on opening day.
Devin did not make his first start until May 25th last year at New York against the Yankees. Big swing from Adam Jones. Jones has had nothing but problems with Marco Estrada. He's just 1 for 15 in his career against Estrada. But that's really not that big of news. Nobody hits Estrada well.
Well, what makes Marco so tough, we all know about the great changeup. And that's what he did all spring long. He said, you know what, that's my bread and butter. That's what I'm going to be successful with, is throwing that changeup for strikes. So he worked on it a lot in spring training. But what's interesting when you dig into the numbers for Marco Estrada, he's got the great changeup, throwing the most of anybody in baseball, but his batting average against the fastball is the lowest in the American League. They just can't catch up to that fastball because they're thinking about that off-speed pitch, that changeup.
2-2 to Jones. On the ground, past Donaldson into left field. Jones turns around first. He's headed for second, and he'll get this with a sliding one-out double. Jones ripped it past Donaldson. JD dove for it. I don't know if he really picked it up off the bat, but it got past Donaldson for a double.
Looked like it might have got under his glove. He was tardy on some fastballs, and then he went to that changeup, and it looked like Jones was sitting on it. Donaldson at third base dives, and the ball actually stayed down. He thought it was going to come up. When it hit the dirt area, it stayed down, and you can see it went right underneath the glove of Donaldson for extra bases.
So Jones is in scoring position for Manny Machado. Machado, another terrific offensive season a year ago. 40 doubles to go along with those 37 home runs. Downstairs for ball one.
Looked like it might have been the cutter right there from Marco. He's talked about that he used his changeup a lot. He said he threw 4 cutters and 4 curveballs all spring long. And I got to get my fastball command. I've got to get my changeup over. I'll worry about the cutter and the curveball later.
There's a good fastball at the knees on the outside corner. Marco Estrada is one of those guys who could pitch with fastball changeup. The other pitch is just kind of icing on the cake.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get another pitch, a third pitch in the mind of some of those hitters. Starts dropping that curveball in there.
Just downstairs. This is the one of 2 times a manager can set up his rotation. He set it up for the start of the season. Blue Jays have an off day tomorrow, so Estrada got to start. Jay Happ will start on Wednesday. 3-1 now to Machado. Chris Davis waits on deck. John Gibbons has all the information right there in that piece of paper with matchups. He knows what everybody hits against his staff. Knows what they hit here, and he knows that guy on deck is dangerous.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty of pitching to the Orioles. You got first base open, but you got another home run hitter behind him. So you got to be careful.
There's a breaking ball in there for a strike, and it fooled Machado. That's what you were talking about. Just put another thought in the hitter's mind, gives him a pause.
Well, now he's going to say, okay, is he going to go back to that curveball now? Is he going to try to change up with the fastball? You got 3 choices. And as a hitter, you just hope that you're guessing right.
Full count. Jones at second with the 1-out double. Cued off the end of the bat. Boy, he fooled him with that changeup. Everybody in baseball knows Marco Estrada is going to throw a changeup on decisive pitches. And even though you know it's coming, it's tough to stay back.
Well, he throws it out at the same arm slot with the same arm speed as his fastball, and it looks like a fastball coming out. He'll throw the fastball 50% of the time, but here comes the changeup at 28% of the time. Cutter and curveballs for show. He's going to use those 2 main pitches most of the time, but it makes it so tough because his arm speed is so good on that changeup.
Missed with the fastball. So they'll put runners at first and second for Chris Davis. Chris Davis led the American League in 2013 with 53 home runs. He led the league again in 2015 when he hit 47. The Orioles have had the American League leader in home runs for 4 straight seasons.
Nelson Cruz did it in 2014. Of course, Mark Trumbo, the on-deck hitter, did it last year.
Ground ball. Estrada knocks it down. He thought about second. He goes to first, and had he fielded it cleanly, he would have had a double play. Troy Tulowitzki is going to come in as he always does and just help Estrada regroup a little bit.
Yeah, he's limping around just a little bit. I don't know if that ball caught him flush, but it looked like it hit him pretty square. If he doesn't touch it, that's a double play. He thought about it and then thought better, said, I better get an out over there at first base. This ricocheted off of his wrist, so they're going to take a little time. Troy Tulowitzki, the traffic cop, says he's going to be okay.
Yeah. Just a chance to help him regroup a little bit. Tulowitzki is so aware on the field. He picked up on it right away that Estrada got hit. He broke in from his position at shortstop to give his pitcher a little time. So Estrada's still not out of the woods. Second and third, 2 outs, and the reigning American League home run champ, Mark Trumbo. ready to step in the box.
Boy, that's why his team is so tough. You can't give up any free passes because it could cost you a run. They led the major leagues in home runs last year, 253 of them, and here's the biggest of them all.
Jones at third. Machado at second. Pitching away, man. And Trumbo has had problems handling those pitches away. Russell Martin was set up down and away. Of course, Trumbo has the power to hit him out anywhere in this ballpark, but he has had trouble handling that pitch away from him.
Well, what you'd like to do against these big power hitters is make them reach for the ball, use their legs to go down and get it. They love that ball out and up over the plate. If you can go down and away, you make them reach for it. Well, if you're the Blue Jays, all you have to do is look at some of the numbers against Mark Trumbo. The lowest average on pitches on the outside part of the plate. He was the worst. He had the lowest average to 147. Chris Carter, another home run hitter on that list. So was Chris Davis, big home run hitter. But again, home run hitters, they love the ball out and up over the plate.
0-2. Fly ball. Carrera coming in. He calls for it. He is there and is Estrada. Strands a pair. No score after one. When we come back, Troy Tulowitzki will lead things off, coming off of 24-homer season. Then Russell Martin and the former Oriole, Steve Pearce.
Regular season as Brad Marchand leads the Bruins against Victor Hedman and the Lightning. The NHL on Sportsnet from Boston tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern right here on Sportsnet.
We move to the top of the second. No score. It'll be Tulowitzki, Martin, and Pearce facing Kevin Gausman here in Baltimore. Troy Tulowitzki, 254 a year ago. He had 24 home runs. Takes one off the plate, down and away. Tulowitzki with 38 spring training at bats. He had a lot more at bats than most of the regulars.
Well, the idea in spring training was to slow things down just a little bit, especially for the guys who are everyday players. And they were hoping to get about 50 at bats for the regulars. Get the 50 at bats, get them up, get them down, get them out on that field, up and down a few times, and then save most of that for the regular season. Tulo looked good.
He looked very good the way he was swinging the bat and hitting a lot of balls to the big part of the field, left center to right center.
He had a double the other day in Montreal. That was classic. Ripping the ball into the gaps for extra bases. right on top of that plate right now.
Here's the 2-1 pitch. Bounce toward third and foul. Tulowitzki homered against Kevin Gausman last July 29th at Rogers Center. In fact, the Blue Jays hit 3 home runs off Gausman in the first inning. Jose Bautista hit a leadoff home run. Then a batter later, Encarnacion went deep. And Tulowitzki, hitting 5th, hit the 3rd home run of the inning off Kevin Gausman.
Got burned a lot last year on his breaking ball, Kevin Gausman. He's got one of the better fastballs in terms of miles per hour in the American League, but where he got burned, especially against righties, was his breaking ball. Left a lot of them out over the plate.
Full count to Tulowitzki. Russell Martin will follow Tulo. Foul straight back.
Well, if you're facing Kevin Gausman, let's get a quick scatter report on the young right-hander. He's going to use the fastball 67% of the time. That's the 5th most in all of baseball. Splitter 17% of the times, and batters hit just 179 against him last year. Slider and the changeup, you can see they're just really show me pitches for him. Just use them to get him over. Got burned a lot.
Behind home plate, Castillo is there and has room to make the catch.
That was another breaking ball right there that hung out over the plate, and Tulo missed it. He'll be upset with himself after missing that hanger.
Donaldson popped out to the first baseman in foul ground. Now Tulowitzki follows suit. First out here in the top half of the 2nd. Russell Martin coming off a nice weekend in Montreal. Got to see a lot of family and friends as he made his return to Montreal.
See him say, finally got a hit. Finally got myself a base hit in his last at bat on Saturday. Got to figure out there's a few butterflies going back to hometown.
Ball on a strike to the Blue Jays catcher.
Russell got off to such a rough start last year, especially in the month of April. Then towards the end of May, caught fire. Had a 252 with an 847 on base plus slugging from the 27th on last year. Really found something, and I think it was his stroke to right field. Stayed on the ball just a little bit more. Hit the ball with authority the other way.
This one's popped into the seats down the right side. Russ has had some success against Gausman, 4 for 7. You see, he's had back-to-back 20 home run seasons. First time he's done that in his career. Just a bit low. It's a full count. Gausman falling behind the first 2 hitters here. He's throwing him a lot of pitches, and there's a first-year Blue Jay, Steve Pearce, waiting on deck. Martin gets tied up on that inside fastball. It's the first strikeout of the afternoon for Gausman.
Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Proud partners of the Toronto Blue Jays. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Steve Pearce had his best season of his career in 2014 while playing for these Baltimore Orioles. Hit 21 home runs that season. Signed as a free agent with the Blue Jays in the offseason. Gets himself a base hit on the first pitch he sees. They were playing him to pull. He went the other way, and it's a single into right center with 2 outs.
There was a little something about his former teammate, Kevin Gausman. He says, I'm not going to let him get ahead of me. I'm going to jump on the first fastball that I see. And it's out over the plate. A little inside-out swing. Second hit of the afternoon for the Blue Jays.
That's Pierce's second hit against Gausman in 3 at-bats. A 2-out single. Kevin Pillar comes to the plate. Kevin had a good spring. He took 6 walks this spring. It doesn't sound like much, but that's a ton for Kevin Pillar. Much more selective.
Well, Pillar, I think he is starting to grow into the type of offensive player that he can become. He's been in the big leagues now for a couple of years. I think he knows who he is, and he doesn't have to go up there just swing, swing, swing. He can read the ball out of that pitcher's hand a lot better now. He had that one at bat in Montreal. I think that really showed the type of hitter he's going to be this year. 2 strikes, serve the ball the other way, shorten things up. I think there's a lot more in the tank for Kevin Pillar.
Gausman ahead 0-2. Pillar checks his swing. Field down there, Cooper at first base. No swing, according to the first baseman. 1-2 now to Kevin Pillar. Pierce at first.
0-2 slider, trying to get him to fish for it, but he held up.
Inside. Now it's 2-2. Now, Kevin really worked hard all winter long with Brooke Jacoby. They met a couple of times a week in the offseason, and what he was trying to do is see the ball before he commits swing or take. In the past, he would start his swing before he even saw the ball come out of the pitcher's hand.
Well, he walked into that batter's box and he said, "I'm swinging."
Bouncing ball, scope to his left, bobbles it. Pillar's going to be safe. They were playing Pillar up the middle. He takes that 2-strike approach and ends up with an infield hit.
That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. Plate coverage and see the ball before you stride. In the past, this might have been a weak ground ball to the second baseman for an out, or it might have been a strikeout, but he cut things down and he's rewarded with an infield hit.
Boy, this is really important for the Blue Jays to have the bottom third of the order get on base. Every time you do that, you get closer to the Thunder in this lineup. And you certainly want Travis Donaldson and Bautista to come to the plate with runners on. Ezequiel Carrera gets to start in left field. He steps in with 2 outs. First pitch breaking ball.
Zeke came up with so many big hits for the Blue Jays last year. In these situations, you navigate through the big boys in this lineup, and then you forget about the bottom.
Fly ball hit to center field. Jones, he's got room right at the edge of the track. Gausman ends both innings with long fly balls to center. No scores. We head to the second.
was 100% healthy. Now, he hesitated in giving me an answer, only to say that, look, I'm here, I'm good enough to play, no excuses. As far as his range goes, Travis admitted that he doesn't really completely know if it's there because the training staff had been very conservative with him this past spring. He said they didn't let him do, quote, anything too crazy out there. Now, he really won't know how he's coming along in that department until he takes part in a big league game against big league opponents. While the team was in Montreal, Travis treated his time back in Florida like 3 straight game days. He went through his usual routine. He played with the AAA team. He ran bases, dove for balls, slid into bags, and said his knee, in fact his entire body, felt great afterwards, which is why he got the green light to play on opening day. But
you know, Hazel, that was the importance of spring training. Just take it slow and build up so you can get to opening day. And everybody's happy that Travis was able to make it about the middle of spring training. He wasn't really sure if he was going to be able to make opening day, but the staff did a great job of getting him ready. And here he is, and he's already got 1 hit.
Played in 101 games last year. This is Castillo, the catcher, hits a high fly ball. Now Pilar and Carrera let it drop. Boy, that's a big mistake right there. A routine fly ball to left field. Carrera and Pilar, they played a lot together.
You know, it's really interesting the time of day of where we are with the cloud cover now. When that ball goes up, it disappears when it gets above the lights. I was watching Kevin Pilar on that. He saw it and then he didn't see it, and then I think he assumed that Carrera saw it and they lost it. He was giving up on it. Carrera was assuming that Pilar was going to take it. I'm not sure Kevin saw it off the bat, nor Carrera. You see them both looking up into the sky.
It's a very gray, cloudy sky and difficult to pick up the baseball. But that ball's got to be caught. So a leadoff double that drops between the left fielder and the center fielder. Now this is Young-Soo Kim. In his second full season last year, in 95 games, he had over 300. But he had a rough start.
Yeah, they booed him on opening day last year. Remember that?
That is a rough start. And
well,
they were home.
And they were home. They were booing him because he didn't accept an assignment to the minor leagues. Well, he showed that he wasn't going to go to the minor leagues because he belonged in the big leagues by hitting 300. Slaps the ball around. Right now he's going to try and pull one on the right side of that infield. Strada's trying to keep the ball away from him.
Changeup. Kim doesn't have much power. 16 doubles, a triple, and 6 home runs last year. They only drove in 22 runs in 305 at bats.
They had him hitting leadoff a couple of times last year because of that high on base percentage and his ability to see a lot of pitches. And then he slaps the ball the other way, so the left side of the infield and outfield got to be ready for him.
Bounces that ball to first, and that's a foul ball. Pierce came after it. Pierce had to make a play on it. It was so close to being a fair ball. It came, and when he caught it, it was in foul ground. Again, Tulowitzki. Just savvy enough to know, hey, I'm going to go in there and give Marco a little breather after he sprinted over toward first with a possibility of making a play on that grounder. So it's 2-2 now. Kim, 29 years old. He's from Seoul, South Korea. Ground ball. Tulowitzki will play it to first. Wellington Castillo got a good read on it. The ball was hit sharply, but behind him, and on the ground out, he moves to third.
And they were thinking about maybe getting the runner at third base. Ball hit sharply right at the shortstop, and the runner froze and then broke right away. Looked like Tulo had a shot at maybe getting him, but he took the sure out. Let's see how the Blue Jays play it. Do they bring the infield in early in the ball game?
Boy, it's so hard to do when you're playing in these small ballparks, but it looks like they're going to play halfway at least.
Not a lot of speed at third base.
That's why they can play halfway, because Jonathan Schoop hits the ball hard. 1 out. Schoop, the second baseman. It's so difficult to play for 1 run when you're playing your AL East rivals because everybody's explosive.
Both of these teams, the Blue Jays and the Orioles, can score tons of runs. They're 1 and 2 over the last few seasons in home runs.
Inside with that fastball. These teams are so evenly matched. As we mentioned, the Blue Jays won the season series last year 10-9. Of course, they had that terrific wild card game that ended in the 11th on a 3-run home run by Edwin Encarnacion.
Baltimore hits home runs once every 23 at bats. Blue Jays once every 24 at bats. Best in major leagues.
Foul tip. Jonathan Schoop, now 25 years old. He's from Curaçao. He played in the World Baseball Classics for the Netherlands. Last year he had a breakout season, hitting 25 home runs and driving in 82. Reaches for that and drives it down the right side. It's going to slice out of play.
It looks like it might have been the cutter right there. I'm guessing the Orioles are going to make the ball go through with the runner at third base. They're not going to try and score on the ground. If there is a ground ball to the infield and he goes, he's going to be out at the plate. So Buck Showalter is probably playing it through into the outfield. Margot could really use a strikeout here.
Bounces that ball in the dirt, blocked well by Martin.
You mentioned it last inning that he's an extreme fly ball type of pitcher, so you got to keep the ball down right now. Keep it in the infield.
Pete Walker, the terrific pitching coach for the Blue Jays. Changeup, he's way out in front, so he's got him going back and forth now, reaching for the cutter and out in front of the changeup.
I haven't seen a curveball yet, and that's what makes Marco so tough. Is the lowest opponent's batting average. This is in Major League Baseball. Jake Arrieta and Max Scherzer was better than Marco Estrada's 203. And then batted balls in play also. Their batting average when the ball's in play, he still had the best average there in the American League. So he's tough to hit because he's got 3 pitches.
Ground ball, holding it third is Castillo. Travis goes to Pierce for the out. Good call, Tabby. The Orioles couldn't gamble on sending the catcher in from third on a ground out.
It's early in the game. You don't have a whole lot of speed over there. As a manager, you play the ball through. And if they don't, you hope that J.J. Hardy can come up with a 2-out knock.
J.J. Hardy, the shortstop. Well, you talk about lengthening the lineup. J.J. Hardy batting 9th in this lineup. He goes after that first pitch. He knows Estrada's a high ball pitcher.
And J.J. doesn't get cheated either at all. He's had some big home run seasons in his career.
30 home runs in his first season here with Baltimore in 2011. This is his 6th season with Baltimore. Boy, that's a good pitch. Hardy couldn't check his swing on that changeup. It's called strike.
I love the target that Russell Martin gives his pitchers. He gets right on that outside corner. And Marco Estrada has that ability to put that changeup on the inside or the outside. But look at that target. Beautiful. This time just a little bit more off the plate.
Ground ball. Travis waits at second. Marco Estrada pitches out of a jam. He gets around that double that fell between Pilar and Carrera. No score as we head to the third. Jimmy Campbell's going to keep us up to date on everything that's going on around the sports world, including some baseball scores from the other ball games. Devin Travis, he's hitting 1,000. He had a base hit his first time up, a little fly ball that dropped in right field.
Blue Jays have been knocking on the door the first 2 innings. Haven't been able to push run across against Gausman.
Blue Jays have stranded a pair. The Orioles have had their chances as well. They were 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position so far. 1-1 pitch. Down and in. Devin Travis played 62 games his rookie season in 2015. Then he took that hot shot one hopper off the shoulder in Cleveland. That plagued him for a while. He eventually had to go on the DL. And then in the offseason 2015 had shoulder surgery. This past offseason he had knee surgery, cleaning up the knee problem. So he's hopeful that this will be the season where he stays on the field. There's that split. Good pitch. Second strikeout. Well, the Hall of Famer Cal Ripken is here. Of course, he played his whole career right here for the Orioles, and he is an iconic figure here in Baltimore and around baseball. 20 fans got to see him last year during the playoffs as he was working for TBS during the playoffs.
20 opening days for Cal Ripken in his Oriole career. That ties him with Brooks Robinson for the most opening days as an Oriole starter. 20.
Josh Donaldson popped out and foul ground his first time. Donaldson dealt with a calf injury, suffered early in spring training and didn't get many at-bats. But he works hard to get himself ready. Even though he didn't have a lot of at-bats, he looks like he's primed and ready to go.
Well, you'd always see him on those backfields, taking tons of ground balls, spent a lot of time in the batting cages to get that stroke down. And when he gets it down, Brooke Jacoby was telling me today, he says he's a lot like Joey Votto, that he can maintain that swing for a long time. Once he finds it, it doesn't go anywhere.
Tapped back to the mound. Gausman took first. 2 quick outs here in the top half of the 3rd inning. Guess who's coming up?
There are certain players who love that kind of booing and notoriety. It just revs them up and it gets them fired up. I think that's why Bautista's got great numbers in New York, in Boston. He's had his trouble at times here in this ballpark.
Career average just over 200, but he still managed 13 home runs here at Camden Yards. This is his 81st game playing in this ballpark.
I tell you, he was swinging the bat as good as anybody in spring training when we saw him. Turning on pitches on the inside part of the plate, hitting the ball with the authority the other way. Free and easy and a very quick, and I mean quick bat.
Bautista spent 2 different stints on the disabled list. He suffered a toe injury on the 16th of June at Philadelphia. Didn't come back until July 25th. He missed 30 games on that first trip to the DL. Then he hurt his knee August 9th. Missed 12 more games.
That was innocent enough, wasn't it? He's coming in to make a throw in the outfield. And it looked like his spikes got caught in the turf, twisted his knee.
Another full count, 2 away. Bautista takes ball 4. Well, you heard the fans react when Bautista was announced, and they have some fuel to that message, and it starts with the Executive Vice President of Baseball Operations here in Baltimore, Dan Duquette, who in the offseason said, we told Bautista's agent we're not interested because our fans don't like him. But you know what? That's a little surprising. There's Dan Duquette on the right, and he said, yeah, he said, I couldn't sign Bautista here. The fans don't like him. I said, well, if he hits 40 home runs, they'd love him if he was signed by the Orioles.
Hey, if he can help you win, I don't care what the fans think, right? If he helps you win, they'll like him. That happens all the time in baseball, doesn't it? Guys you just hate when you're facing them, but then when they're on your team, you love them.
Yep. Get under your skin because they're good. Kendrys Morales fired out deep to center field to end the top of the first. Just missed hitting a home run.
He was launching them today in batting practice. Right on top of that plate. He's got a lot of moving parts, but when he gets that foot down and he's in a good hitting position, hit the ball a long way.
Morales told us the other day, he said, when I'm hitting the ball well, I hit it to straight center. And you can see the outfield for the Orioles reflects that. He's got power well enough to hit it out anywhere in the ballpark. And he says, when I'm really swinging the bat well, I'm hitting the ball hard, big part of the field. Three and out taking.
Cosman will show and throw his share of fastball. He's got one of the highest percentages in baseball. So it's a hitter, 3-1 count. Maybe you can lean on one of those fastballs.
Looked like he threw him a splitter. Hit it off the end of the bat. Morales looking for the heater. So Bautista with 2 outs and a full count. He will be off on this next pitch. Morales for his career, a .355 hitter against the Orioles. Troy Tulowitzki is on deck. There goes Bautista. Ball is popped into the seats down the left side.
Another off-speed pitch. He's able to foul it off.
Kendrys Morales spent his last 2 seasons with the Kansas City Royals. He was named the Edgar Martinez Award winner in 2015 as the best DH in the league. Played 154 games last year with Kansas City. Hit 30 home runs in a big ballpark.
Big ballpark. Like you said, straightaway center field. Most good hitters will keep that ball in the middle of the ballpark. That'll help them keep that front side in there. Once you start seeing a lot of pull hitters and stuff, pitchers can go right after that. But Morales is a good hitter because he stays in a big part of the ballpark.
Off the end of the bat, Machado at shortstop throws to first to end the inning. Blue Jays lead another base runner. Through 3, they've stranded 4.
Friday, April 16th, the first 20,000 fans will receive a Bringer of Rain umbrella when the Blue Jays host the Baltimore Orioles at 1:07 p.m. For tickets, visit BlueJays.com. Buck.
Thank you, Hazel. Josh Donaldson has certainly become a fan favorite in Toronto, and why not? He's put up big numbers in his first 2 seasons, MVP in 2015, and he's got a flair about him. The one thing I love, Pat, is he stays on the field. 158 games in 3 straight seasons, 13, 14, and 15. He played 155 games last year.
And you know he was hurt.
Yep.
We talked about that a lot last year.
Here's the leadoff man, Seth Smith, takes first pitch strike. Ball is driven to center. Pilar hustling back, and it's over his head. Smith into second with a stand-up double. Pilar reached up, but it was beyond his reach, over his glove, off the wall in center for a leadoff double.
So for the second straight inning, the Orioles had the leadoff batter at second base standing out there. This ball's covered by Smith to center field. Pilar goes back. It looks like he reached up and he was going to have a shot at it. Just out of his reach. How many times have we seen him leave his feet on those same kind of plays and make the catch? Can't come up with it this time. The difference between this inning and last inning, after leadoff double, you're facing the 3 bottom hitters last inning. This inning, you got to go right through the big boys.
Joan, Machado, and Davis. Smith at second. Jones hit a changeup down the third baseline for a double in the first inning. He was stranded at third as the Orioles stranded a pair in that first inning.
This is one of the most consistent players in all of baseball. Adam Jones, 25 home runs. I mean, mark it down. Every year he's going to get him 25 home runs. Last year hit 29. That's 6 straight seasons now that Jones has hit at least 25 home runs. He's a situational type of hitter, yes, in the number 2, but right now he's looking to drive this run in. He's not trying to move that runner.
Change it. 3-0 now to Adam Jones. He's going to have the green light. You can count on that. Early in the ball game, scoreless game. Manny Machado waits on deck.
Showalter will play for big innings with this ball club. Not a lot of team speed where they manufacture runs, so you can bet that he's got the green light.
Inside, 4-pitch walk. Second walk issued by Estrada. 2 on, nobody out.
The cars change, the fandom doesn't. Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays and proud fan since 1977.
Iconic Utah straight beyond the fence in right field. John Gibbons, Blue Jays manager. This is his second stint, and he was awarded a contract extension. Will take him through 18 and 19 with an option for 2020. This is his 5th season in his second go-around as the manager of the Blue Jays. Machado hits it high in the air, not deep. This time Carrera calls for it. Tagging at second is Smith, but he'll hold his ground. Carrera and Pilar talking it over. They saw that one clearly. Carrera emphatically called for it to make the catch back into second. They had a similar ball drop between them.
Communication wasn't there. I don't know if they picked the ball up off the bat. They were assuming the other one was going to take it. Marco Estrada was able to pitch around that leadoff double.
The Orioles got off to a great start a year ago. They won their first 7 games. They swept the Twins here in Baltimore and then took a 2-game series from Tampa Bay. Went to Boston and won the first 2 games at Fenway Park. Got off to a great season start. Chris Davis at the plate. Davis is a notorious fastball hitter. I mean, he has never seen a fastball he doesn't like. So they start him off with a changeup.
Diffuse that power. I mean, if he's going to knock it out, he's going to have to supply all the power, because Estrada's going to try and use that changeup to diffuse that behemoth power.
There he gets that fastball over. Good fastball. Estrada dealt with a back injury last year, and he just didn't have that velocity. That last pitch was 90 miles an hour.
Last year it averaged 88 miles an hour. Yeah, he can pitch at 88 because he's got that curveball, cutter, changeup.
0-2 pitch. Well, that's a floating changeup in there, just 79 miles an hour. What a difference in velocity. And as a hitter, speak to the challenges a hitter has when you have to deal with 90 on one pitch and the next pitch is 79.
You know what it feels like? Swinging the bat against a great changeup like that. It feels like almost like your bat, like you're swinging underwater. You go to hit it, the ball's not there, and you're slowing things down. And that's what I mean about Davis. If he's going to hit one out against Marco, Davis is going to have to supply the power, because Marco is going to try and get him out on that front foot and get him swinging and popping the ball up or hitting it off the end of the bat. Really upset that timing.
Bautista hustling over. He's not going to get there. It's off the wall. Seth Smith's coming around. He scores. Good throw to second, and Davis is out. A run comes in as Seth Smith scores from second, as Chris Davis has driven in the first run of this ball game with a long drive off the scoreboard in right.
Well, I mentioned that he's going to have to use the power because he's going to use, Estrada's going to use that changeup. That's exactly what happened with Chris Davis. He stayed back on that ball and just swung with those powerful arms. He gets fooled a little bit, but look at that. That's all his power. Out on the front foot, one hand swing, and he hits it off the wall. Blue Jays do a good job. Fundamentals, get the ball in quickly. Bautista showing off that strong arm again. They're able to hold that runner at third base and get it out at second.
Terrific throw by Bautista for the second out of the inning. Jones is at third with 2 outs. Here's Mark Trumbo. First pitch changeup. Bautista made a terrific throw in the WBC from left field to gun down a runner at the plate, which would have been the winning run in the game against Columbia. His arm strength is coming around.
I asked him about that in spring training. He says, I'm healthy again. My arm feels great. First time in a couple of years, and he showed it off right there. He knew exactly where to throw that ball.
Trumbo hit a fly ball to left his first time.
Got him out on his front foot on that changeup.
Shoots this one to right. Bautista on the run. That's a fair ball. Jones comes in to score. Trumbo digging for second. He'll get there with a slide. Mark Trumbo knocks one down the right field line, just a couple of feet fair, and picks up a 2-out RBI.
That's making the adjustment at the plate if you're the Oriole hitters. Trumbo, just like Chris Davis, very strong. He hits this one off his back foot. Flat-footed swing, but he's strong enough just to fire the ball and rifle it down the right field line for extra bases. No chance for Jose this time to get him. And a clutch hit by Trumbo makes it 2-0. That's what you have to do as a hitter. You've got to make adjustments in game against certain pitchers.
Veteran lineups will do that. Certainly we have seen that in this inning. Marco Estrada gave up a leadoff double to Seth Smith. The double by Trumbo, the third hit for Baltimore this inning. Wellington Castillo hit a fly ball to left center's first time up that fell between Carrera and Pilar for a leadoff double. He moved to third on a ground ball, but was stranded there. Both Castillo and Estrada spent time in the National League, and there's another fastball for a strike.
Castillo's hit 33 home runs the last 2 years. I mean, he's going to fit right in with his Baltimore Orioles team. All or nothing. 32 of those home runs, he came as a catcher, 6th most in baseball. He doesn't get cheated either.
Fly ball to left. Carrera back. He's got room right at the edge of the track, and he hauls it in for the 3rd out of the inning. But Baltimore breaks out on top. 2 runs on 3 hits, a pair of doubles in the inning. 2-0 Baltimore.
Don't miss these great AL East matchups. It's Milwaukee Brewers at Rogers Center April 11th to 12th, followed by the Baltimore Orioles, then the Boston Red Sox April 18th to the 20th, and then the Tampa Bay Rays April 28th to the 30th. For tickets, BlueJays.com. Buck.
See a couple of veterans on the bench. Kendrys Morales, Jose Bautista, and Bautista getting acknowledgement for that assist. That's his 77th career assist as a Blue Jays outfielder, and that's 2nd all time. Only Jesse Barfield has made more great throws from the outfield than Jose Bautista. Barfield has 117 career outfield assists while playing for the Blue Jays. Bautista is 2nd with 77. Troy Tulowitzki will try to get something going for the Blue Jays here in the top of the 4th. It'll be Tulowitzki, Martin, and Pierce for the Blue Jays. Tulowitzki goes after the first pitch, and it's a sky-high fly ball to right. Smith waits and makes the catch. 1 pitch, 1 out here in the 4th. Gausman has now thrown 53 pitches, and he worked a lot of full counts early in this game. But he is a durable, strong young guy. He threw over 100 pitches several times last season.
Yeah, you don't want to burn him out too early in the season, but they've made him work. They've left 4 runners on base through the first 3 innings. They've had guys on base, but Gausman with that big arm has been able to work out of trouble. He was the 4th player taken overall in the 2012 draft, so he's, I think, just coming into his own now, and they're expecting big things from him. Hey, anytime you're drafted that high, the potential is there. And Kevin Gausman started to show it last year. His fastball command in the second half was outstanding, and I think that's why his record was much better in the second half also.
Well, we go back and look at that draft and see where Gausman matched up. Pretty impressive draft. Carlos Correa, of course, a terrific shortstop for Houston. Brian Buxton now starting to show some promise. Kevin Gausman was fourth. Addison Russell was also in that draft as Martin strikes out for a second time this afternoon.
He was drafted on the strength of that arm, that electric fastball. He averages about 96 miles an hour with that fastball. He'll use it a lot. That time he's going to go upstairs to get Russell for the second time this afternoon. It's been a slow climb for Gausman. He's battled some injuries over the year. They put him in the bullpen a couple of times. They've just really kind of taken baby steps with him to get him to where he is now. Now he's an opening day pitcher.
Dave Pierce goes after a first pitch for a second straight at bat. This time he grounds out to Machado. Easy inning for Gausman. 3 up, 3 down as we head to the bottom of the fourth. Baltimore up by 2. He is in his 3rd season with the Blue Jays. He was acquired from Milwaukee in a trade for Adam Lind November 1st, 2014. And Pat, it seems as though he is fit well here in Toronto.
Yeah, he talks about that. He says, number one, I've given the opportunity to start. That's number one. And then number two, I've developed my cutter to go along with my curveball, changeup, and fastball. And I think he's established that he is a very good pitcher in the American League. He made an all-star team last year. He works with Russell Martin really well. And one of the other things that Estrada does now that he learned, remember when Mark Burley was here, is Mark Burley just would count on that catcher just to call the game, and he would just think about executing his pitches, and now he does that. Works really well with Russell Martin.
Marco Estrada, his first season, 2015, worked almost exclusively with Deoner Navarro. That was a great tandem, but Russell Martin has stepped right in, and he has really done a great job with Marco Estrada. It's interesting the impact Mark Burley has had on this team, and even though he's not been here for a couple of years now, but guys always talk about how they learned a lot watching Burley pitch and talking pitching with Burley.
Marcus Stroman thought very highly of Mark Burley, didn't he?
Papa Burley called him, and Marcus is poised to open up the Tampa Bay series. Game 3 for the Blue Jays. That'll be Thursday night down in St. Petersburg. I think he's primed and ready to have a terrific season. Kim pulls it on the ground. Travis is there. One away.
Isn't it funny how a guy who hasn't even been here for over a year still has the effects of Mark Burley? The professionalism, how you prepare, how you go about your job. Marco Estrada speaks very highly of him.
Well, Mark Burley had a terrific career, and he was certainly highly regarded no matter where he has been. He spent most of his time, of course, with the White Sox. This is Jonathan Scope batting with 1 out.
I'll tell you one more story about Burley. When he retired, when he and Troy Hawkins announced that they were going to retire, the ball players got together and got one of those Vernon Wells paintings that Vernon's father paints. They're outstanding portraits of the players, and they all gathered in the clubhouse one day and presented it to him. Burley was here just a couple of years, but has made his mark.
Scope pops it in the air, high into left field. Carrera coming in. He is there and makes the catch. 2 up, 2 down here in the 4th. Scope pops out to left. J.J. Hardy, the shortstop for the Orioles. Well, he has been such a fixture here in Baltimore. Done a terrific job anchoring the defense.
He's the perfect shortstop for Buck Showalter. He wants his shortstop to run the show out there, almost become an extension of the coaching staff on that infield, and Hardy does that. Always seems to be in the right place at the right time. Buck Showalter wants that shortstop to think just like he is all the time.
This time Hardy strikes out. Very good inning for Marco Estrada. 3 up, 3 down. Baltimore with a 2-0 lead as we head to the 5th. Now time for an update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Samsung broadcast studio.
MLB Live Tracker on Sportsnet.ca. Real-time scores and stats and all the detailed information you need. Have it with you when you watch the Blue Jays right here on Sportsnet. MLB Live Tracker on Sportsnet.ca keeps you in the ballgame. Buck.
Thank you very much, Hazel. And those folks are just beyond the ball game. They're in the hotel on the balcony watching this great atmosphere. Opening day at Camden Yards. Baltimore has a 2-0 lead. Kevin Pillar pitch one downstairs. First pitch ball. Pillar had an infield single his first time up. Greg was talking about a different approach, and with 2 strikes, he poked it to the right side of the infield. Reach base.
You know what he's doing? He's seen the ball before he starts to swing. He was very anxious as a young player and said, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to swing. No matter where the ball is, I'm going to swing. Now he's seeing the ball. He's slowing the game down.
Isn't it interesting? Young players, young hitters think they can hit every pitch they see.
Or think they have to hit every pitch that they see. Look at that
take.
That's a great take.
3-1 count. Pillar batting in the 8th spot. His job's to get on base, turn the lineup over. He takes a high pitch, ball 4. Gary Cederstrom says, "It's ball 4, young man. Go to first." First man's aboard here. Kevin Gausman walks Pilar. He's up over 60 pitches now as he works in the 5th.
Had a quick inning last inning that should help him stretch things out just a little bit.
5 pitches he needed in the 4th inning. The Orioles have just 3 starters on their active roster because of off days. They have a very unusual schedule. They have 5 off days in the first 25 days of the season. So they're currently carrying just 3 starters, Gausman, Bundy, and Ubaldo Jimenez. So they have a full complement of arms down in their bullpen. They have 8 relievers.
Rick Showalter was talking about that before the ball game today, saying, you know, we got to play interleague next week. We've got to get right back into it. Our pitchers have to hit when we go to Cincinnati. But because of all the off days, you're right, they can carry more bullpen arms.
He also lit up when he started to talk about the 10-day disabled list. He says, man, I can't wait to see how people are going to manipulate that. Given the fact you can put a player on a disabled list for just 10 days and you can just rotate your pitchers. But in order to do that, you've got to make sure you have optionable pitchers. That's Chris Tillman, who is currently on a disabled list. He is their ace, if you will, dealing with shoulder problems that lingered from last year. And he's thrown 2 bullpen sessions here since the Orioles have been in Baltimore. There's a base hit to center for Carrera. Pilar will stop at second. First 2 reach here in the top of the 5th.
Home Hardware and Building Center locations, proud partners of the Toronto Blue Jays. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
First and second for top of the order. Leadoff man Devin Travis, 1 for 2 so far in the game. Goes after the first pitch. For all you fans that are sitting there say, why don't the Blue Jays bunt? The Blue Jays don't bunt.
No. Why would you give a guy who's a career 300 hitter? We can say that now after 2 years. Why would you take the bat out of his hand?
Yeah. Let him swing it. That's what he's there for. 0-2 quickly as he fights off that inside pitch.
He likes that ball out over the plate where he can rifle the ball the other way, or if it's an off-speed pitch, he can pull it. Gausman is stay right in on his hands right there. You can see Devin just can't extend on that ball. You got to respect the fastball from Gausman because it's a good one. Let's see some kind of off-speed pitch now.
Splitter. And a good one. Travis strikes out on 3 pitches, couple of fastballs, and the splitter does the trick. 4 strikeouts now for Gausman.
You know, there was only 4 other pitchers in the major leagues who had more strikeouts via the splitter than Kevin Gausman. He had 63 of his strikeouts last year from that pitch. He puts fastball in your mind early in the count and then drops that thing on you. And not much you can do with it.
Josh Donaldson. He's 0 for 2. Pop out in a ground out. Third time facing Gausman. He's got a little better gauge on what he's dealing with here this afternoon. Boy, he's seeing the ball well. Laid off that splitter.
He made that comment when the team was in Montreal for those 2 games against the Pittsburgh Pirates that he was seeing the ball, seeing the breaking ball out of the pitcher's hand, seeing the release point, loading up on that backside. He is in a hitter's count right now.
Two and one. Gausman backed off with the breaking ball.
Says he's going to be aggressive with that slider, and he was there. 2-0.
Both Bautista and Donaldson, boy, they really make you work for a power hitter. They both have great strike zone recognition. They know their strengths. Donaldson takes ball 4. That'll load the bases for Bautista. This is the exact scenario John Gibbons was thinking about when he constructed this lineup. Here's Pilar, Carrera, bottom of the order. You get those guys on base, you set the table for the big bats, and it is perfectly set for Bautista.
And then you let them just do their thing. So Jose Bautista gets a hit with some runners on base, set up by that great at bat by Donaldson. He was not going to go after that off-speed pitch. And it's the same type of at-bat right now. Bautista's got a plan. It's the first thing you have to do. You have to have a plan when you step into that batter's box. And then make that pitcher come to you.
Two and 0. Third time through the order, Blue Jay hitters getting a good look at Kevin Gausman. Pitcher Castillo behind home plate makes the catch. 2 down.
Jose was patient on those first 2 pitches. Like he was looking for the ball away from it and that he could do some damage. He got to a 2-0 count. He was a little bit too anxious on that one. A riding fastball looked like it might have been ball 3. A little bit too anxious there. And pops out. Now the Blue Jays need a 2-out hit.
They got their cleanup man at the plate, Kendrys Morales. Morales has authored 3 career grand slams. Kendrys 0 for 2 so far in this game. First pitch stop.
Again, he's got one of the better fastballs. He and Aaron Sanchez tied for the highest. One of the highest velocities in the American League, so he's going to use it to get ahead.
They're blocked by Castillo. Ball and a strike, 2 outs. Bases are loaded. Kevin Pilar with the leadoff walk. Carrera singled to center, and after a Travis strikeout. Josh Donaldson walked to load the bases. Then Bautista popped out. And here's Morales batting with 2 outs. Good eye. There's another guy that's got a good eye and great plate discipline.
He's not a free swinger. He'll take his share of walks, and he's going to make that pitcher come to him. That's why he is a good RBI man.
Three and 1. Bases loaded. Pilar is at third. Carrera's at second. He singled. Donaldson walked. 3 balls and a strike to Kendrys Morales. Blue Jays are down by 2. Foul back. Full count.
Came right after him with his fastball. He gave up 20 of his 28 home runs on the fastball last year. It's a good one. Well, that's showed me something right there. Going to it 3-1 against Morales.
Full count. Runners will be moving on the pitch. Ball 4. That'll walk in a run. Pilar comes in to score, and the Blue Jays are on the board. It's now a 2-1 ball game.
Overthrew that one just a little bit. Didn't stay in his lane. Trying to hump up for a little something extra. I think that's why you're going to see Roger McDowell come out and talk to his young starter. Reach back for a little something extra, and it really threw him off. It wasn't even close.
3 walks in the inning. Only 1 hit. That was a Carrera single. Roger McDowell, longtime Braves pitching coach, new pitching coach here for the Orioles in his first season. Tyler Wilson, one of 8 relievers, 5 right-handers, 3 left-handers down in the Oriole bullpen.
Patient Blue Jay hitters this inning has run that pitch count up to 88, and we're only in the 5th inning.
We mentioned that Gausman had several full counts early in the ball game. Troy Tulowitzki, base is still loaded. Boy, he had a rip. After that bases loaded walk, he thought he might get a good pitch to hit, and he found it straight back.
And he did too. You know, as a hitter, you say, okay, he's got to come to me right here. Pitching coach comes out, they talk about it. You get it, first pitch, let it go.
Breaking ball. Strike 2.
Now this is where we saw Tulowitzki in spring training succeed by going the other way when he was down in the counts.
Got a battle here. Tulo is 0 for 2, and he has hit 3 career grand slams. Just off the plate low. Tulowitzki, the 7th Blue Jay to bat here in the 5th inning. This rally once again started with the 8-9 batters getting on base. Then you get the meat of the order up with a chance to bust it wide open.
Busted open. Kevin Pilar with the leadoff walk, and Blue Jays cash him in.
2-2. Gausman has 4 strikeouts, but he's also walked 4. Martin has struck out twice so far.
It's a big pitch right here. 2-2. 2 outs, bases loaded.
Out in front. Fly ball. Long run for Kim. That ball is foul. The Orioles bunch the gaps in this ballpark. The thinking is anything down the line is going to be extra bases anyway, so you try to take away the alleys. Buck Showalter plays his outfield pretty much straight away all the time. Of course, he's got a terrific defender in center in Adam Jones.
Below average speed though in left field. So anything down that line, you can score the runner from second base. Any extra base hit, you have a chance to score 3.
31 pitches this inning for Gausman. Quite a battle. This is reflective of the season series a year ago.
Yeah, everything's so close, everything's so tight between these two teams. Look, Showalter was talking about it the other day. He says when these two teams get together, you know, a win in April could be so important by the end of the season, and it cost them last year. That wild card game was in Toronto because the Blue Jays won the season series 10-9.
Full count. So once again, with the bases loaded, the base runners will be off on the pitch. Carrera from third, Donaldson from second, and Morales from first.
Where does he go to now? 3-2.
I think he's got to throw something other than a fastball.
That was his splitter, 2-2. As a hitter, you're looking for something. You battle yourself right back into the count now. Let me see the ball. Don't try and do too much.
Came back at him with that hard slider, looked like he got a piece of it. No, it was a fastball.
I think Tulo was thinking right along with you that he was going to go off-speed pitch. That was a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and he was able to just poke it foul.
Gosman's pitch count up to 96. They were in the 5th inning with 2 outs. Blue Jays need to take advantage of this. They've had him on the ropes all inning long. So far, they've only managed a bases-loaded walk. Pulled on the ground. Machado has it. That'll do it. But the Blue Jays get on the board. Morales with a bases-loaded walk. The Jays leave the bases loaded. Baltimore has a 2-1 lead.
Toronto Eaton Center are the official team shops for your Toronto Blue Jays. Authentic alternate red cap and jersey available right now. Get yours today at select J-Shop locations or visit jshop.ca or call 1-877-J-Shop. Buck.
Thank you very much, Hazel. And Marco Estrada continues to battle here. He is trailing 2-1, and Marco had a terrific season a year ago.
203 opponent's batting average that led the American League, a 151 average against the changeup, and he was the Jays starter. He led the Jays starters in strikeouts per 9 inning, almost 1 strikeout per 9 inning. He had it working, and all of that culminated in just a 9-9 record. The Blue Jays just could not score any runs for Marco.
Yeah, he was victimized by a lack of run support. Here is Seth Smith. He's 1 for 2. He doubled and scored in the 3rd his last time up. Good fastball. Got it up and in on Seth Smith. Just 88 miles an hour, but effective. Well, that's part of a mix.
That's a couple of fastballs to open up the 5th inning. And veteran pitchers, veteran catchers will get a sense that teams are starting to sit on certain pitches, and I think the Blue Jays sense that they're sitting on that changeup, so they go fastball, fastball, changeup to get the first down.
Smith strikes out, 1 away.
Cheering for the Jays since day one. Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays and proud fan since 1977.
The steamed crabs in Baltimore, one of the real featured fairs around this wonderful city. Always enjoyed partaking in that, but you got to take an apron and a bib.
They're kind of messy, aren't they?
They are messy, but boy, are they good. Adam Jones has been on base twice so far in this game. He has doubled and walked. Jones was on Team USA along with Marcus Stroman, and was able to celebrate that championship. USA beating Puerto Rico to win it in Dodger Stadium, and Jones had a great tournament. Bouncing ball, big hop for Donaldson, takes his time. 2 down.
10 years now for Adam Jones. Where did that 10-year period go? 10 years he's been with the Orioles.
How about that trade? They got Jones and Chris Tillman. George Sherrill, a reliever that made an all-star team from Seattle, for Eric Bedard. And Bedard had 1 season, and they traded him at the height of his success. And boy, they really robbed the pockets of the Mariners when they brought in Jones and Tillman, who were still part of this Orioles ball club.
And times were tough for the Orioles there for a while. They had some high draft picks, and they cashed in on them, like Matt Wieters and young man standing at the plate right there, Manny Machado. But they've also had some great trades. That one that you mentioned, they got Chris Davis from Texas for Koji Uehara. That was a great trade for the Orioles.
Manny Machado takes one off the plate. It's a ball on the strike. The Orioles had 14 straight losing seasons from 1998 to 2011. That's down the right side, but that's slicing into the seats. We mentioned they got off to a great start last year at 7-0. They finished the month of April 14-9. They had a great month of June, 19-9, but then they ran into problems in July and August. They were 25-30 middle of the summer. But Buck Showalter, in his 8th season here with the Orioles, has orchestrated the turnaround. They have the most wins in the American League since 2012.
5 consecutive seasons with a record of 500 or better to get those 444 wins.
Buck's in his 18th season as a manager. He's been the manager of the year 3 times.
8 of them right here. This is his 8th season with the Orioles.
Michael Givens, he too was on Team USA. Hard-throwing right-hander, part of a very deep and very effective bullpen for the Orioles. Popped out of play. We mentioned earlier the Orioles are carrying just 3 starting pitchers, so they have 8 relievers in their pen, including 3 lefties. Buck Showalter liked the way the schedule sorted itself out. Another ball ripped into the seats on the left side this time.
Manny Machado has been sitting on that changeup this whole at bat. He's been tardy on the fastball, fouling it down the right field line. He's waiting for that changeup.
He couldn't wait long enough. A couple of strikeouts in the inning. Another 1-2-3 inning for Marco Estrada. He's retired 7 straight. Back over to the offense. Martin, Pearson, Pilar when we come back. Matched up in a 2-1 game, and you see the improvement. Last year, during the course of the season, his first 18 starts, Kevin Gausman had an ERA over 4, but boy, in his last 12 starts, Pat, he was dramatically under 3. What was the turnaround?
It all had to do with fastball command. He was able to get his fastball inside, outside, use it whenever he wanted to, and get ahead, and then use those off-speed pitches as his finishing pitches. The splitter, like we talked about, but whenever you can command your fastball and throw it where you want to, especially when you throw as hard as Kevin Gausman, you're going to have success. Look at that. First pitch, fastball, outside corner. Next pitch, fastball, inside corner. Yeah, Russell Martin talking to himself right now.
He might be talking to the umpire. A ball and 2 strikes to Martin, leading off the 6th. Ground ball right to Hardy. It's short. Across the diamond in time, Norway. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Baltimore, Maryland. Beautiful Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Buck Martinez along with Pat Tabler. We're in the 6th inning. It's a 2-1 Oriole lead. Steve Pearce had offered it both first pitches he has seen. He singled on the first pitch in the 2nd and grounded to 3rd on the first pitch in the 4th.
So Gausman starts him off with a breaking ball. Now Pearce is in a hitter's count.
Base hit for Steve Pearce. Welcome back to Baltimore. Pearce 2 for 3. And Buck Showalter quickly out of the Orioles dugout. That's going to be it. He's already made the call to the bullpen. Steve Pearce with a 1-out single to left. That will end the day for Kevin Gausman. He can win it. He can't lose it. And Buck Showalter will acknowledge a terrific start opening day for the 26-year-old right-hander. Michael Gibbs. One of the real strengths of this Baltimore Oriole ball club is the depth of their bullpen, and this is the first reliever out of the pen for them, Michael Gibbons, coming off a terrific season a year ago.
Yeah, he's a good one. 8-2 with a .313 earned run average last year. He pitched in the WBC this year. Former 2nd-round draft pick in 2009. was signed as a shortstop. They converted him to a pitcher in 2013, and he's got a great arm. Hard fastball, hard slider, and makes right-handed hitters very uncomfortable with that three-quarter delivery.
The ball gets away from Castillo, but not far enough for Pierce to take a chance to advance. Ball 1-2, Pilar. Kevin's been on base twice, an infield hit his first time up, and then walked and scored in the fifth. High fly ball deep to center. Jones is back. He's got room right on the track and hauls it in. Pierce gets back to the bag, 2 away now.
Hey fans, don't forget MLB.TV Premium is your choice to watch every out-of-market regular season game live on over 400 supported devices. Plus, get a free subscription at Bat Premium, #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. And you know, if you get on that app and you look at what happened yesterday, opening day around the baseball, 3 games, 2 of them walk-offs, Buck. Exciting baseball games that came right down to the bottom of the 9th.
Arizona walked off the Giants after Madison Bumgarner hit 2 home runs. Chris Owens come through for them, and Randall Grichuk knocked in the winning run in St. Louis after the Cubs had tied it up in the top of the 9th. Terrific ball games.
This one looks like it might come right down to the last inning also, the way these 2 teams battle each other.
Ezequiel Carrera 1 for 2. He singled his last time up. He has not had an official at bat against Gibbons. We mentioned the effectiveness of this Orioles bullpen, and Buck Showalter has put together quite a different crew. Lefties, righties, sidearmers, sinker ballers. A very different look from each and every one of these relievers.
You know, and that is by design. He wants to give the hitters something different to look at from all of them. But the thing that he says he's most proud about, this team in the bullpen, is their health. They have stayed healthy over the last 5 years.
2-2, 2 outs. Downstairs, it's a full count. Blue Jays have done a good job of working the count here this afternoon. Pierce at first base. He'll have a little extra lead as Chris Davis is going to play behind him with 2 RA. There goes the runner. Fair ball just inside the bag. Pierce is headed for third. They're going to give him the wave. Here's the relay. Scope has it. No throw. He double clutched, and the Blue Jays have tied it.
That's the advantage, running that count to 3-2. Pierce, the runner at first base, gets a little bit of a head start. Once Carrera ran that to 3-2, Pierce can get the head start, and the extra base hit's going to tie this game up. Ezequiel Carrera always seems to come up with some big hits for the Blue Jays. Even with Davis playing behind the runner, he's able to squeeze that ball by him down the right field line. Seth Smith gets over there, gets it quickly to Scope, who's got a strong arm, but he can't get a good grip on it. And Pierce dives across the plate. Watch him one more time. He just doesn't get a good grip on it. The transfer from the glove to his hand wasn't very good, and the Blue Jays are able to tie it up. It looked like when Carrera put the brakes on out at second base, he might have twisted his ankle.
Watch him as he goes around the base, puts the brakes on, and then watch his ankle. Yes, sir, he rolled over that right ankle. George Poulos is out to have a look. Carrera going to test out that ankle, and very concerned John Gibbons, of course. Remember, the Blue Jays don't have an extra outfielder.
Right.
They released Melvin Upton Jr. to set their 25-man roster. They've got Goins and Barney, who have both played in the outfield, but they're not outfielders. Watch his right ankle right there as he put the brakes on and rolled over that ankle. And I hope it's nothing serious, but he is okay as he has tied it up with an RBI double. A 2-out double. Carrera 2 for 3 now.
You know, if you're thinking of options for John Gibbons, they can bring in Justin Smoke to play first base and put Steve Pearce out there.
He's not an outfielder.
But right, he's not your classic outfielder. One more time, if you've ever done this where you put on the brakes and you roll that ankle, it's scary. It feels, sometimes you can feel that pop, but you can walk it off. If you stay on it, keep moving around, tape it up in between innings, you can play on it.
Travis lifts the fly ball to left. Kim coming over in the alley, gets there, but the Blue Jays have tied it up. Steve Pearce, a one-out single, comes around to score on Carrera's RBI double. It's tied at 2 as we go to the bottom of the 6th. An off day on Tuesday, and they'll play Wednesday night. But prior to the game on Wednesday, you'll be treated to the Cubs and Cardinals. It'll be game 3 of their series in St. Louis. That's Wednesday afternoon. The Cubs and Cardinals, a great rivalry. John Lackey will go to the mound for the Cubs against Lance Lynn, a couple of right-handers in that 3rd game of that Cubs-Cardinals series. Marco Estrada in a tie game. Pitching right to form, 5 innings, 5 hits, couple of walks, and 3 strikeouts.
7 in a row he is set down, and his pitch count in much better shape.
That was his 60th pitch, or his 80th pitch, excuse me. And here is Chris Davis. Marco Estrada baffles hitters. There's no doubt about it. You say, okay, I'm going to look at the changeup, and he throws you a fastball. Got the heater past him, and I tell you what, you've been in this situation, hitting against tough pitchers. You go up there and you say, okay, well, I know what he's going to do to me, but I still can't do anything with it.
Well, I think he senses, and Russell Martin senses, that the Orioles are looking for his off-speed pitch. Last couple of innings, they've thrown more fastballs than we've normally have seen. Looks like another one's coming up and in.
And that does it. Gets a strikeout.
When you sense that the other team is sitting on certain pitches or slowing their swing down and looking for something off speed, that's when you start using that fastball more.
Well, Pete Walker loves the ability of Estrada to mix and match during the course of the game. He's got one of the best behind the plate in Russell Martin, and this is that four-seam fastball. Look at the spin on that thing upstairs. About 89 miles an hour, but it gets it by Chris Davis. 4 strikeouts in the last 5 outs. That's how you change the pattern.
Yeah, it looks like he has, and he got touched up for a couple of base hits by Davis and Trumbo.
Hot shot, gloved by Tulowitzki. High throw. Pierce stays on the bag for the out. Tulowitzki caught that ball behind him. It was a short hop to his glove side, and he was able to pick it and then make a good throw.
That ball looked like it might have been topped by Trumbo. And when it's got top spin like that and an in-between hop, you have no idea where that ball's going to bounce. But Tulowitzki did the right thing, played it on the side, and made it look easy.
Good play on both ends. Tulowitzki and Pierce. 2 outs now. Here's the catcher, Wellington Castillo. He has a gift double this afternoon. It was a fly ball he hit leading off the second and dropped between Carrera and Pilar in the outfield. But Estrada was able to strand him at third. Time and time again, Marco Estrada pitches into the 6th, 7th, and 8th. And you sit there and go, man, this guy can flat out pitch. Bautista's got room in front of the warning track. Good inning for Estrada. A shutdown inning after the Blue Jays tied it up.
Sportsnet. Presented by Honda. You can count on us to get home safe. Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays and proud fan since 1977.
Baltimore, home of Babe Ruth, and there's a statue outside called Babe's Dream. And right now, Marco Estrada is dealing. Over the last 3 innings, it's taken Estrada just 34 pitches, and he has retired 10 in a row. First 3 innings took him 55 pitches, but boy, he's zeroed in now. Donaldson, then Bautista and Morales here in the 7th. Orioles play Donaldson to pull on the infield. Waves at that breaking ball.
He's the kind of guy, though, Josh Donaldson, when players and teams play that shift on him, he can go to right field as good as anybody if he wants a hit.
Shoots it to that vacated spot at second. Donaldson doing a terrific job taking advantage of that shift. Leadoff single.
Telling you, he can do it anytime he wants to.
You got to see more and more of this. I just don't understand why good hitters like Donaldson can't do this often, because he's a terrific hitter, and that pitch was inside, maybe off the plate. But look at where the second baseman is. Jonathan Scope hits it into no man's land.
Don't have to hit it hard if you got the whole right side to work with. You know, I saw Chase Headley yesterday for the New York Yankees 3 times beat the shift, just poke the ball the other way, just like that.
I'm surprised it's taken so long for hitters to make the adjustment. We saw Donaldson throughout the postseason do it very effectively. He was banged up, didn't have his legs underneath him, but he was just taking those breaking balls and driving them to the right side of the field. Time and time again.
Tell you what, that's going to do 2 things. They're either going to start shifting back around over there, or the pitchers are going to pitch a little bit differently.
Bautista broke his bat. It's 0-1. Off the plate. Eric Cooper down at first. The top 6 in the Blue Jays batting order have managed just 2 singles. The bottom 3, Pierce, Pilar, and Carrera, have been on base 6 times in 9 plate appearances. Bautista with a mighty cut.
He wasn't thinking about a single on that swing. He was thinking about untying this ball game.
Oh, and strike 3.
Jose was looking for a breaking ball right there. Michael Gibbons crossed him up.
One away. Kendrys Morales had a bases-loaded walk his last time up. There's that fastball to Bautista, and he was just looking for a different pitch. Gibbons can locate that fastball to both sides of the plate. He had trouble last season pitching to lefties. Second half of the year, he started to use a changeup more effectively against the left-handed hitters.
That was improving, and that helped him to retire left-handed batters a little bit more regularly.
He's got a good fastball. The one thing about this bullpen that has really been effective, they pitch a lot of innings, but they don't make many appearances. So when they come into the game, they stay in.
Here's that changeup. You're right. Gibbons finished off last inning by retiring 2 of the 3 batters he faced, and Showalter's going to leave him back out there. 5th in Major League Baseball in innings. But down towards the bottom in appearances.
25th out of 30 in appearances over the last 5 seasons. Morales goes after that high fastball. Back-to-back strikeouts after the leadoff base hit.
You're going to get a lot of wins from your bullpen when you shut down the other teams and you play a lot of close ball games. Shut them down, give that offense a chance to win games. What they have is they've got strikeout pitchers. Look at that arm angle that Gibbons is throwing that ball from. Almost sidearm, and it's rising up towards home plate at 95.
Troy Tulowitzki. Joe Biagini loosening up in the Blue Jays bullpen.
Marco's at 89 pitches. I don't know what they're thinking. If they're going to send him back out there or bring Biagini in to start the inning.
Troy Tulowitzki 0 for 3 to this point of the ball game. We mentioned the top 6 in the Blue Jays lineup. Just 2 singles. Bottom 3, Pierce, Pilar, and Carrera, come up with 5 hits. Inside. It's a good fastball from a tough angle.
That's why he's so tough on right-handers. Can be very uncomfortable at bats when he's throwing 95 like that and trying to get it inside.
Donaldson picked his spots very carefully in the stolen base department. He was 7 for 8 last season. Tulowitzki reaches for it, pops it up down the right side. Scope calls for it, makes the catch in foul ground. Michael Givens gives up a leadoff single, but Josh Donaldson is stranded at first. Long innings. He threw 89 pitches, allowed 5 hits, 2 runs, both earned runs, and a couple of walks, 4 strikeouts. He threw first pitch strikes to 16 of 24 batters he faced. And Pat, once again, this was vintage Marco Estrada.
Yeah, unfortunately, he can't win the ball game because it's tied. And you come out of spring training and you start to build up your pitch counts. He's right at 90 right there, and this is a good first outing for Marco to start the season. He gave his team a chance to win, pitching 6 solid innings, retiring the last 10 batters in a row. Really a lot of weak contact those last 3 innings from the Orioles. So Estrada's afternoon is done. Joe Biagini will come over, and what a pleasant surprise Biagini was last year in 60 games for the Blue Jays. He had a winning record at 4-3. His first loss was against the Orioles, actually, back in April of last season. A very good earned run average of 306. John Gibbons says, I can pitch this guy in numerous situations. He can be a bridge to my closer. He can be a multiple inning guy out of the bullpen because we have him stretched out. We can set him up. Remember that bullpen is down one big arm as they head into this afternoon's game.
Roberto Osuna began the season on the 10-day disabled list. He won't be effective, won't be eligible to be activated until the 11th of April. That'll be the home opener against Milwaukee. So when asked who was going to close, John Gibbons said, we'll see. He said, I will use my pitchers according to the situation. And Pat, I think that's the best way to look at it. I don't think you need to make any announcements about who's going to close. Just let the game unfold and match up accordingly.
Well, you got plenty of numbers that you can do that with. He even mentioned Joe Biagini. Told me today, he said, you know, hey, Joe could even close games if I need him to close games. So This afternoon, he's going to be a bridge. He's going to be a guy who's going to have to hold it right there. Maybe you can get a couple of innings out of Biagini. He'll face the bottom of the lineup here in the 7th inning. Maybe you can get him through the 7th, maybe through the 8th inning. Blue Jays take the lead and get him a win.
John Gibbons saw Joe Biagini and what he did during the playoffs. He held the opponents to a 120 batting average in the most pressurized games of the season. Joe is now 26 years old. He'll turn 27 on May 29th. Last year was his first season pitching above Double-A. He jumps ahead with a first pitch strike. Hyun-Soo Kim grounded out to short, grounded out to second, 0 for 2.
Key to a successful inning when you're coming out of that bullpen, retire that first batter. Makes things so much easier. Biagini can make that ball sink. He's got an overhand curveball if you need that. He can cut his fastball.
Misses away. Marco Estrada retired the last 10 batters he faced in this game. And this is the most powerful lineup in baseball. Led the league last year in home runs.
Some weak contact too.
Pete Walker in his 5th season as the Blue Jays pitching coach. Foul back on the 3-1 pitch. The Blue Jays pitching has improved the last 3 seasons. They were 9th in the American League in 14. Climbed up to 5th in 2015. And they led the league last year. Pete Walker does a terrific job. Full count. Ground ball. Travis to his right. He has time. 1 away. WestJet Plus includes extra legroom, food and beverages, and no middle seating. Sometimes you need a little treat for yourself. Book a Plus fare now at WestJet.com. Now the Blue Jay fans on hand here this afternoon. And a great atmosphere. It always is here at this ballpark. And Blue Jays fans travel well. I'm sure they are enjoying this great ball game. Blue Jays will have tomorrow off and then close things out in a short 2-game series with a game on Wednesday night. Jonathan Schoop fouls it back. Schoop played with the Netherlands in the World Baseball Classic. They played their first round in Seoul, South Korea. They advanced to the second round in Tokyo, Japan. Made it to Dodger Stadium and lost. Little chopper back toward the mound. Schoop saying it's a foul ball. And the umpires are not agreeing with him. And now Buck Showalter is going to come out.
If it was off of his leg, why did he go halfway up to first base?
Showalter coming out now, and Jonathan Schoop broke right out of the box. And they're going to have an umpire conference here. Watch the reaction of the hitter. I don't think it hit him, and you see that he broke.
Yeah.
And then he thought, hey, I'm not going to make it to first base. I better try something here.
It looked like it hit the dirt and then maybe clipped his toe.
Well, I don't know. Hard to tell there. The umpires, obviously none of the 3 umpires in the field saw anything that would make them overturn the call. Gary Cederstrom is the crew chief of this crew. Whatever Buck said made him laugh. So Schoop is out. 1-3 on the putout. Brad Brock, all-star from a year ago, loosening up for the Orioles. Another thing this bullpen does, they can get lefties and righties out. It doesn't make any difference. They don't have to play matchup.
Yeah, even though they've got 3 lefties down there, the righties are capable.
J.J. Hardy. 0 for 2. Orioles have 2 runs on 5 hits. The Blue Jays have 2 runs on 7 hits. Fly ball. Bautista over near the line in right. Good inning for Biagini. 3 up, 3 down. No problem. We'll head to the 8th. These two AL East powerhouses locked at 2.
Last chance to enter. The contest closes tomorrow at 4:59 p.m. You could win a trip to the Honda Home Opener April 11th at Rogers Center. That game is already sold out. Now post a photo or video of you showing your Blue Jays spirit along with hashtag Honda Home Opener and @Blue Jays to Twitter or Instagram. Contest details and rules available for you at bluejays.com/Honda Home Opener.
Just around the corner, we'll be back home on Tuesday, the 11th, for the home opener. New pitcher for the Orioles, Brad Brock, had a terrific season a year ago. Had a great first half. In fact, made the All-Star team for the first time. 10-4 for the season with a very impressive earned run average.
Another one of those pitchers who comes in and just shuts you down with a funky, herky-jerky type of motion. Very tough on right-handed batters. You can see just a 126 average. He starts on that third base side. He steps across his body. Another defensive change. Joey Rickard into the ball game for Kim in left field. But Brock is tough. He can run it up there in the mid to upper 90s with a very difficult angle once again against right-handed batters.
Russell Martin 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts. First pitch strike from Brad Brock. The composition of this bullpen has come in many different fashions. Brad Brock was a long reliever with the Padres. Tough pitch, didn't get to call. Zach Britton, their terrific closer, was a failed starter. We saw Michael Gibbons, as Pat mentioned, he was a converted shortstop. And Darren O'Day has become a real fixture in their bullpen. He was claimed off waivers. Fastball upstairs. So they have really mixed and matched, and they have put together a very effective bullpen, and it's been a 5-year run for this pen.
One of the best. That's why it's so tough to play this team late in a game when you're matching bullpens, because they're so deep.
1-2 to Martin. Now it's 2-2. Brad Brock tied with Andrew Miller for the lead in wins out of the bullpen. They both had 10. Pretty good company when you're in the same class as Andrew Miller.
He had 10 wins out of the pen. Michael Gibbons had 8 wins out of the bullpen.
Mentioned the bullpen earned run average a year ago. They were ahead of the World Series Cleveland Indians. Kansas City had another year Have a great bullpen. Mariners were good as well.
Number 1 in the American League, 3rd in Major League Baseball.
Martin runs the count to 3-2. Fans weren't so excited about it. There's the check swing and the appeal down to first, and it's denied. Another full count. Buck Showalter didn't like the call either. Ball 4, leadoff walk. Martin reaches base for the first time today. That's 5 walks issued by the Orioles. Kevin Pillar walked and scored in the 5th. Here's Steve Pearce. A very effective return to Camden Yards. 2 for 3 so far, and he's been swinging early in the count. Takes a pitch this time. Pearce is now 33 years old. He was originally drafted by the Pirates. Blue Jays signed him to a 2-year contract on December 5th, 2016.
And the reason they signed him is his versatility, and he can swing the bat. We've seen him at second base. We've seen him in the outfield this year. He can play first base today, and he can hit.
A year ago, he split his time between Tampa Bay and Baltimore. His time in Baltimore was his second stint with the Orioles. Pops this one up into shallow left. J.J. Hardy, the shortstop, goes out. He calls for it and makes the catch. Brad Brock is interesting in that he's basically a high 3/4 delivery guy, but he pitches up. And he pitches up very effectively. Generally, when you see the pitcher drop his arm angle, it's going to be down in the zone with some sink, but he has enough zip to get it upstairs.
And he hides the ball so well. I told you, he steps across his body and then fires that ball almost like it's from behind him. So right-handed batter just can't pick the ball up.
Boy, Kevin Pillar looks good at the plate, doesn't he?
Quiet. Looks nice and quiet at the plate, not trying to do too much.
It wasn't long ago that he'd have been hacking at that pitch.
He'd be down 0-2. And he would be battling himself to try and get back into the count. But now here he sits 2-0. He can take a shot right here to try and get extra bases.
He does, and loses the grip on the bat. A fan caught it mid-air. Everybody seems to be okay, and Pillar will get a new piece of lumber.
Good play by the fan.
That's a pretty good opening day souvenir, I would say.
That is a clean bat right there as Kevin loses the grip. Watch the fan just snag it right out of the air. Nice little souvenir.
That has to be such a strange feeling at the plate. You have the count in your favor. You take a mighty cut, and the bat flies out of your hands. Again.
And the fans are saying, what are you doing? But I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not trying to do it. For some reason, he just can't get a good grip on that ball. Now he's going to try the spray. Instant replay.
The bottom hand came off the bat before top hand, and then he just loses the grip. You can see he just really is surprised he flings that bat over the Blue Jays dugout. That time it wasn't a clean catch.
Yeah, but he still has a clean bat. Look at that. It's hardly anything on it.
That's a brand new bat, too.
Well, maybe this is the one with the hit in it.
Ground ball to second. Scope to Hardy for one. Back to first. Dug out of the dirt by Davis. Inning-ending double play will go to the bottom of the eighth. It's a 2-2 game. Now time for an update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Samsung broadcast studio. Official vehicle of the Blue Jays and proud fan since 1977.
Let's go back to the 6th inning. A runner on base, 3-2, 2 outs. Steve Pearce is going to get a jump at first base, and he's going to have a chance to score. Ezekiel Carrera rips that ball down the line. Pearce can circle the bases after Jonathan Scope drops the ball. That is why we are tied at 2, and that is this afternoon's drive of the game. Ezekiel Carrera with a couple of more hits today.
He continues to impress. The more he gets to play, the better it seems he gets. He had a terrific postseason for the Blue Jays. Hit a home run against Yu Darvish in the series against Texas. And now he gets an opening day opportunity, and he has responded with 2 hits and RBI. Joe Biagini, with his 2nd inning of work, retired the side in order in the 7th. Top of the order, Seth Smith, Adam Jones, and Manny Machado. Yesterday, the Blue Jays had a optional workout here at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Joe Biagini was the last player to leave the field. Literally everybody else was jumping on the bus. He was still in the bullpen working on his delivery. We've seen him do it every day. He never takes a day off.
Practice makes perfect, right? I mean, you heard that when you were a kid.
Joe's a terrific young man, and you know, you might think, well, he had a good season last year. He's going to slack off a little bit. Not a chance. I mean, literally, he was out there for 20 minutes, not throwing a baseball, just replicating his delivery over and over again. J.P. Howell, veteran left-hander, getting loose for the Blue Jays. Full count. Biagini fell behind Young-Soo Kim to start the 7th inning. Came back and got him to ground out to 2nd. Adam Jones waits on deck.
I'm seeing why the Orioles have Seth Smith in that leadoff spot, that 342 on base percentage. Very patient hitter.
Ground ball. Donaldson at short. Long throw in time. Biagini bounces back and retires the first man here in the 8th. Adam Jones 1 for 2 with a walk. He walked and scored in the 3rd inning. He scored the 2nd Orioles run. Orioles scored 2 runs on 3 hits in the 3rd inning of Marco Estrada. Jones shows bunt, pulls the bat.
Interesting. Everybody deep in the outfield to cut anything off in the gaps. Josh Donaldson at third base, very deep and shading towards the line. And Jones said, I'm going to try and lay one down on him.
High fastball. 2-0. Little cutter that Jones fouled off.
That's a perfect time to throw that little cutter right there. 2-0, tight ball game late. You just throw something to get it off the barrel. Throw the timing of that hitter off just a little bit.
Fly ball to right. Bautista's got a bead on it over near the foul line, and Jones is retired. Joe Biagini retired 5 straight since coming into the game. Picked up right where he left off last year.
Those are some pretty interesting numbers right there. Just 3 home runs allowed last season.
Biagini did not allow a home run until September. First 49 games of his career, he didn't allow a home run. Now Joe Smith, also a newcomer to the Blue Jays, starting to loosen up.
Curveball got away from him. This is the one guy that you really worry about. Manny Machado just seems to come up with big hits against the Blue Jays in his young career. You know, he's already got 39 extra base hits against Toronto.
He has been something, hasn't he? 13 home runs, 40 RBIs against the Blue Jays.
In 69 games.
Yeah, he's going to be good when he grows up.
So you got to be careful with him. I get it.
Biagini beat him with that 2-0 pitch. Zach Britton standing by, ready in the bullpen. Looks like he might come on to work the 9th, even if it's tied or not. Buck Showalter didn't use him in the wild card game. Cutter ripped to right. Machado's aboard with 2 outs. There's the call from John Gibbons. He has made the call to the bullpen for the left-hander. So Biagini retired 5 in a row before giving up the 2-out single to Manny Machado. The batter will be Chris Davis, and he will face the lefty J.P. Howell, who'll make his first Blue Jays appearance when we come back. making his Blue Jays debut here. Those are his numbers from a year ago while pitching for the Dodgers.
This was one of the reasons why they brought him over here, to face some of those tough left-handed batters in the American League East, the power pack American League East. 1-1 with a 409 earned run average. He got into 64 games. He was a situational lefty for the Dodgers last season, and this is a big situation for him right here. Chris Davis hit 38 bombs last year. Going to have to retire him, and it's not just Chris Davis. There's a whole lot of guys who've had their share of Blue Jay pitching over the years.
Not two of them in the Oriole uniform. Chris Davis and Adam Jones lead the pack. Then Robbie Cano, Evan Longoria, and Nelson Cruz, who also played for the Orioles, with 21 career home runs against the Jays. J.P. Howe, fastball curveball, basically with an unusual delivery. He has made 20 appearances in this ballpark. Remember, he spent 6 seasons with the Tampa Bay Rays. First pitch is in the dirt.
The one thing you don't have to worry about really with the Baltimore Orioles is the stolen base. They just don't do it. They don't run. They like to sit back and slug it out. So if you're pitching right now, you don't have to worry too much about that runner at first base. This is the guy you want to think about. Big Chris Davis.
Curveball in there for a strike. J.P. Howe has a lot of confidence in his curveball. He can snap it off. He can drop it inside, drop it outside.
He'll throw it anytime. Anytime in the count. When he's ahead, when he's behind.
Oh, what a good pitch. Right in on the hands of Chris Davis with a lot of paling action right at the end.
You see Chris Davis thinking about that last swing. A little two-seam fastball right in on his hand. See how he crowds him? Can't extend those arms.
Curveball missed down and away. This is the great chess match. Pitcher, catcher putting their heads together to neutralize a potent bat. 8 of his 38 homers last year came off left-handed pitchers. Go inside, tie him up again. Let's regroup. Howe pressed the reset button.
That's exactly what that was. Wasn't really sure with either his grip or the pitch that they decided to go with. I'll just throw over first base and reset.
The Orioles had 19 stolen bases all year last year. Breaking ball. He laid off. 3-2, 2 outs. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning in a 2-2 ball game.
Unlike that ball, try another one. This is where he's liable to throw anything. He can throw a 3-2 breaking ball.
Absolutely. You're in here for one batter. You can roll the dice. Joe Smith is ready for Mark Trumbull on deck. Moving Pierce around at first. 3-2. Left field. Carrera is there. J.P. Howe wins that battle. The Orioles get a runner on, but they stranded. We'll go to the 9th. What's new? A 2-2 ball game in Baltimore. Zach Britton coming into the game. Britton had a phenomenal season a year ago. 47 for 47 in saves. Look at the opponent's batting average. 155 the right-handers. 185 the left-handers. He didn't give up a thing all year.
Yeah, crazy numbers. Basically throwing one pitch a la Mariano Rivera. Remember, Rivera would just throw cutters. Well, he just throws a super sinker. And with that sinker over the last 3 seasons, he's basically first or second in every major category out of the bullpen. Saves 120, save percentage about 94% of the times. Those are the best in the American League in ranks in terms of that. A 138 earned run average. For Britton, it's just sinker after sinker after sinker. Tough to get the ball in the air, tough to square it up. Gave up 1 home run last year. That was to Mookie Betts back in April.
He posted a major league record 43 consecutive relief appearances without surrendering an earned run. Darwin Barney has grabbed the bat. He's come off the bench. Batting for Carrera in the 9th spot. Two-two ball game. We're in the 9th. First pitch strike. Barney 1 for 3 going head-to-head against Zach Britton. Britton began his career as a starter. In fact, he made 28 starts in 2011 for the Orioles. He had an 11-11 record with a 461 earned run average. He made the conversion full time in 2014. And it was a dramatic and effective conversion. First year he had 37 saves.
He was on the verge of getting released as a starter. But they went down and they simplified things and they said, listen, just use that great sinker. It works better out of the bullpen. Buck Showalter had the wherewithal to put him at the back end of the bullpen, and it's been lights out ever since. All-star the last 2 years.
1-2. Strikes him out. That is a wicked sinking fastball. Mid-90s with a lot of late movement.
I think what you have to really do is you got to make him bring that ball up. It starts in the strike zone and it looks like a strike, but watch where it ends up. Wellington Castillo, the catcher, takes it right off the dirt. It's tough to lay off of it. I understand that. You've got to make him elevate that ball.
Back to the top of the order. Devin Travis 1 for 4 and a bloop single his first time up. Travis is 2 for 3 against Zach Britton. But you're right, Pat. I think you've got to set your sights. If that fastball starts about mid-thigh, it's going to be out of the zone.
It's going to be out of the strike zone. And Blue Jays, I remember a game last year against Britton where they were really patient with him.
Ground ball up the middle. That's a base hit for Devin Travis. He's aboard with 1 out. For Travis, that's his 3rd hit off of Zach Britton.
That game I was talking about, they were patient. They actually loaded the bases in the 9th inning against him, and he ended up getting out of it because he was perfect. This time the ball's up just a little bit more, and Travis gets it under the glove of Britton and out of the glove of J.J. Hardy for an infield hit.
A 1-out base hit. Now Josh Donaldson will step in. JD had a base hit to lead off the 7th, but never moved past first. He's 1 for 3 with a walk today. Ground ball, base hit through the left side. First and second, 1 out.
JD's been on 3 times. His last 3 times up. Setting the table for Jose Bautista and Kendrys Morales.
How about this? Baseball has a way of working things out, doesn't it? Bautista's been booed all afternoon. Here he is batting in the ninth with the game on the line. Jose has 9 at-bats against Britton. 2 hits.
Jose's going to get a good at-bat here. He's going to make him get that ball up. There's Dan Duquette, the general manager of the Baltimore Orioles.
Ground ball. Machado at third. Second for 1. Scope back to first. Scoop by Davis. An inning-ending double play. Brad Brunk got a double play to end the 8th. Zach Britton doubles up Bautista to end the 9th.
In Baltimore gets underway Wednesday with Blue Jays Central at 6:30 Eastern. Jay Happ will start that ball game. And in the bullpen, it's Jason Grilli warming up. And if called upon, Grilli told me if there is a safe situation and he's got to close, he says he is ready. He's done it before. And he has 78 career saves under his belt with an opponent's average just a tick north of 2. Grilli telling me that the best way to show Roberto Osuna support as a group is they're going to have to pick him up during these ball games. But
thank you very much, Hazel. And here's another relief pitch. It's the third reliever to work for the Blue Jays. Joe Smith coming on to make his Blue Jays debut. J.P. Howe retired Chris Davis, the only batter he faced here this afternoon. Now it's over to Joe Smith.
Joe spent time last season with the Los Angeles Angels and the Cubs. He got into 54 games. He got an ERA about 3.5. He gives the Blue Jays a little something, a different look that they haven't seen in a lot of years. That sidewinder. He can sink it, a little bit of a slider.
Darwin Barney came in as a pinch hitter. He takes over defensively in left field. 2-2 ball game, bottom of the 9th. We have been in this situation before in this ballpark. These two ball clubs, they go toe-to-toe every time they meet. It'll be Trumbo Castillo and Joey Rickard. One pitch, bouncing ball to short. Tulowitzki to Pierce, one away. Joe Smith last year dealt with a hamstring issue, first with the Angels, and then later on when he was traded to the Cubs, spent time on a DL with a hamstring problem. Watching him this spring, he just got better and better with the more work he got. He's now 33 years old, originally drafted by the Mets in 2006.
Keeps the ball down. Been around for a long time, and he knows all about pitching. Blue Jays signed him in February. A good late signing.
February 9th. Wellington Castillo, the catcher. Castillo is 1 for 3. Marcus Stroman, always working on his trade. He will pitch the first game Thursday night in Tampa. Well, that's a good pitch down and in. Nothing that Castillo could do with it.
Tough to lift that one out of the ballpark.
First AB for Wellington Castillo against Joe Smith. Advantage pitcher. Smith throws that slider, and it actually seems as though it rises. So you really got to stay on it. But the key to his success is throwing strikes with his fastball inside.
Down where he can get his share of ground ball outs. But you're right. Slider that can go down the way. He can get you out up in the zone or down in the zone because of that arm angle.
When you come into a game like this, I think the more strikes you throw, the better off you are. Different arm angle. Throw a lot of strikes. Batters never faced you before. Just keep pounding that strike zone. Another 1-2 pitch. Looped into center. That's going to drop for a base hit. Castillo, the second hit of the afternoon.
You know, not every good pitch is an out. I thought that was a really good pitch. They're going to set up off the plate. Look where Russell Martin is. Off the plate, up and away, and Wellington Castillo got a double his first time up on a ball that fell into the outfield. This time, as Joe Smith comes from down under, gets just enough of that ball, drop it into the outfield.
Joey Rickard, his first plate appearance. He came into the game defensively in left field, taking over for Young-Soo Kim. Rickard last year is a Rule 5 player with the Orioles, played in 85 games. Right field, Bautista makes a diving grab. They've got a shot at Castillo, and they will double him up. Jose Bautista returning to form. He threw out a runner in second earlier in the game, makes a nice diving catch and turns it into an inning-ending double play. Jose Bautista, throughout his career, one of the premier right fielders in the game, makes a terrific play to double up Castillo to end the ninth. We'll go to the 10th. Bautista flashing the leather in right. Best outfielders that has ever played for the Blue Jays, has made 2 terrific plays. If he doesn't catch this, the game is over.
Game is over. Joey Rickard bidding for extra bases and a game winner, slices that ball to right field, and Bautista read it beautifully, read it quick.
Morales goes after the first pitch from Britton and grounds out to third.
But Jose got a great jump on that ball. That ball slicing away from him. Stay right with it. If that ball gets by him, game's over. But he comes up with it. Watch the movement. They were shading him to right field. And remember, he's playing a little bit deeper, guarding against the extra base hit. A ball in the gap over his head. Extra base hit and the game's over, but comes up with it, picks up his second outfield assist of the afternoon.
Tell you what, you've got to be confident to dive for that ball, because if it does get by you, Castillo's going to come all the way around from third and score. You got no backup down that right field line. Troy Tulowitzki hits it on the ground. Big hop for J.J. Hardy. Throws out his counterpart. 2 ground ball outs.
You can see why Zach Britton has been so tough. 79% of the balls in play against him are ground balls. That's number one in major league relievers. Just keeps throwing that sinker. The batters, they just top it. Get it on the ground.
Russell Martin. He's 0 for 3 with a walk.
Standing ovation for Zach Britton, picking up some trash out on the field.
One to Martin. Well, that is such a tough pitch. He does such a great job of starting at bottom of the zone.
As a hitter, it looks like it's right there. And then it ends up underneath the bat.
Blue Jays were 4-9 in extra inning games a year ago.
Yeah, they were tough. That and one-run games, they didn't have a whole lot of luck.
21 and 25 in one-run games. Zach Britton in his second inning of work. Had a couple of base hits in the ninth, but got a double play to end it. Steve Pearce has a couple of hits today, 2 for 4. Full count to Martin. Ball 4. Martin walks for a second time. 6 walks now issued by the Orioles. They've turned a couple of double plays. Of course, with 2 outs here, that's not an issue, but double play into the 8th, double play into the 9th.
And just like the Blue Jays last inning, the outfield's got to play a little bit deeper. Cut any ball off in the gap.
Steve Pearce takes one downstairs. Pearce 2 for 4, single in the second single and scored in the 6th. Pearson scored the tying run, and we stand at 2-2 here in the 10th. Pierce just 2 at bats against Britton. He has a hit. He's 1 for 2. Base hit. 3rd hit of the afternoon for Steve Pearce. He can hit. That fastball was up. There's a perfect example of the best way you can approach Britton. Just hope he gets one upstairs.
Make him get that ball up there, because he's going to throw it down there. And if you keep swinging at it, he's going to keep throwing it down there. At that time, it was up.
Tyler Wilson up for his 2nd time this afternoon. He was up early in the ball game.
One more time for Steve Pearce. Ball up, and he's got that type of swing that he can handle that inside pitch with that short stroke. Rips it in the left field. Pearce has 3 hits.
Jason Grilli loosening up for the Blue Jays. Remember, no Roberto Osuna, as he is on the disabled list.
Blue Jays have had runners on base all afternoon.
They've stranded 10 so far. They've got 2 aboard now with 2 outs here in the 10th. Kevin Pillar. Osuna is with the ball club. His injury is not arm related. He's got stiffness in his back and shoulder. They expect him to be ready when he's eligible. Ball in the strike.
Wilson Martin is getting a good secondary lead out there at second base. Adam Jones can really throw in center field. He had 4 assists last year. Seth Smith had 7 outfield assists last year for the Mariners. So Russell, get that secondary lead and get that momentum going to third base so you can score on any hit to the outfield.
Bouncing ball. Machado at third. Plays it across the diamond in time. Blue Jays strand 2 more. They've left 12 on base in a 2-2 ball game. We'll go to the bottom of the 10th. Manny Machado, a Gold Glover at third, takes his time, throws out Pillar to end the inning. For the previous season, 2016, the Baltimore Orioles led the way with 253 home runs. Then the Cardinals were second and Mariners third. Blue Jays were fourth at 221. The Orioles had 6 players Check that, had 7 players with 20 or more home runs. Trumbo, Davis, Machado, Jones, Scope, and Alvarez. Matt Wieters had 17 home runs. Jed Jerko led the Cardinals with 30. Brandon Moss had 28. Randall Grichuk, who won the game yesterday, had 24 home runs.
They had about 5 guys with at least 25 home runs.
Jonathan Scope goes after the first pitch. Devin Travis waits for it to come down, and it does.
So they're not out of any game. Those 5 guys with 25 home runs, just the 12th team in Major League history with that many players on one team. So you're never out of any game if you can knock the ball out of the ballpark.
The Blue Jays also had 6 hitters with 20 or more home runs, led, of course, by Edwin Encarnacion. Edwin had 42, JD had 37, and Saunders and Tulowitzki had 24. Bautista 22 and Martin 20. Two powerful teams, and nobody has left the yard today. Last year they averaged about 3 home runs a game every time they met. I think they had 57 home runs in the 19 games they played. Testimony to good pitching. Bautista is right there to take that line drive off the bat of J.J. Hardy. John Gibbons. He's got a second left-hander down in his bullpen, and the batter is Seth Smith. J.P. Howe worked in the 8th, faced just one batter and got him out. So Joe Smith, big smile on his face, a very effective debut with the Blue Jays. Aaron Luke will pitch when we come back to Baltimore. Quite a ball game going on here in Baltimore this opening day. Aaron Luke will come on to take over for Joe Smith. Luke will face a pinch hitter. You see his numbers from a year ago, but not last year. He wasn't 100% healthy.
Yeah, he got off to a rough start because he was hurt. He didn't make the team out spring training, spent some time on the disabled list, came back. It just wasn't right, and I think you see the numbers elevated. Just 14 1/3 innings last year for Aaron in 21 ball games. Righties had 321 against him. This year, though, he's healthy. His fastball's got some more snap to it. His breaking ball is putting it in a good spot. He can finish off his pitches now. And he had a great spring for the Blue Jays. Won that second lefty out of the bullpen job in spring training. And with him in the game, that's going to make Buck Showalter go to his bench.
Rookie Trey Mancini will come up to pinch hit for Seth Smith. Mancini with some power. Mancini had 3 home runs and 14 at-bats last year, finishing up the season here with the Orioles. He had one pinch hit at bat last year. He's 0 for 1 as a pinch hitter in his career. Loup got that ball in on his hands and tied him up.
That's what I mean about he's able to finish his pitches now. He can reach out there and get that ball in there if he has to against righties.
Mancini hit 20 home runs in the minors last year between AA and AAA, and then 3 more in the big leagues. Loup's last pitch was 92, and we didn't see that very often a year ago. John Gibbons and his bench coach DeMarlo Hale going over the options and the matchups here late in this game. 10th inning. Breaking ball, so Mark dropped it. Marco Estrada, another terrific start. His first opening day start, he allowed 2 runs on 5 hits over 6 innings.
Got stronger. Got stronger as the game went on.
Finished up retiring the final 10 batters he faced. Up the middle, base hit for Mancini. Pilar was deep. He has to get it in quickly. Well, Mancini does his job. A pinch hit single. Craig Gentry, a speedster who made this team in spring training, will take over as a pinch runner.
You know, that's another benefit that the Orioles can have by just starting the season with 3 starters. They have a couple of extra guys on the bench. Loup tries to sweep that breaking ball over the middle of the plate again, but Mancini's got some plate coverage, and you can see how deep Kevin was playing Pilar out in center field. He's got to hustle in there. And after that base hit, Blue Jays are going to go back to the pen.
Well, here comes the veteran, Jason Grilli, coming on to face Adam Jones. The man at first and 2 outs. Jason Grilli makes his season debut with the Blue Jays. Those are his numbers from a year ago between his time in Atlanta and with the Blue Jays. And boy, he was a real boost to this bullpen last year when they picked him up.
Yeah, emotionally and talent. I mean, he did an outstanding job for the Blue Jays. Took over in that 8th inning and really set up Osuna all season long. He's a veteran. He knows how to get guys out if he has to. He's become the leader of that bullpen. And right now, he's got a tough assignment. He's got Adam Jones and Manny Machado he's got to deal with the winning run over at first base.
5th reliever of the game for the Blue Jays. Adam Jones 1 for 5 against Jason Grilli. Gentry at first can really run. Boy, Grilly did a good job. He unloaded that ball in a hurry before Gentry had any time to get a jump.
Well, you put a runner over there who can steal you a base, but more importantly, anything in the gap, you got a little bit more speed where you can try and score him from first base. Gentry, like you said, Buck, can really run. For his career, he's had 77 stolen bases. He's only been thrown out 13 times. Outfield very deep.
Jones late on that fastball. Gentry had 24 steals for the Texas Rangers in 2013 and just 246 at-bats. Adam Jones behind 0-2. There goes Gentry. Ground ball hit to Tulowitzki. He gathers it up across the diamond, and we will go to the 11th. Jones hit it hard, but right to the shortstop. Jason Grilly closes out the Orioles in the 10th. New pitcher for the Orioles into the ball game is Tyler Wilson. He made 24 appearances last year for Baltimore. Zach Britton, the closer, went 2 innings. He allowed 3 hits, but no runs.
And Wilson, who has started some games, and he's a long man out of that pen. We've seen him do that in the past also. He will take over here. Buck Showalter was able to coax 2 innings out of his closer. Zach Britton gave up 3 base hits. So now he turns it over to Tyler Wilson. Craig Gentry stays in the ball game after pinch running for Trey Mancini. He will take over in right field.
Well, the Blue Jays are going to counter the new pitcher with a pinch hitter of their own. Gentry came in as a pinch runner. Now he's in right for Seth Smith. Justin Smoak will bat. This is for Ezekiel Carrera, the left fielder, which means Smoak will stay in the game, play first base, and Pierce will go to left field. First pitch off the plate outside. Darwin Barney is currently in left, and obviously there are some. He's pinch hitting for Barney, so Pierce has to go to left.
Yep, and that'll be the move. Tyler Wilson, you mentioned that he made some starts for the Baltimore Orioles, so he's a 4-pitch pitcher. He's got them all: fastball, curveball, changeup, slider. Doesn't overpower you. Get yourself into hitter's count like Justin Smoak is. That's where you try and rip one.
A good cut.
Smokey's been hitting the ball hard. Been hitting the ball hard to left field. Staying on the ball, getting on the fastball. He looked good that last week of spring training.
2 balls and a strike. Smoke leading off the 11th. Be careful in there. Got underneath that, fouled it out of play. It's now 2-2. Pierce got the start at first base to counteract the starter Kevin Gausman in that splitter. Pierce has had a terrific day at the plate, 3 for 5 so far in this game. 2-2 pitch. Strike 3 call. Wilson. Surprise Smoke with a fastball.
A couple times that we have seen that this afternoon now by the Oriole pitchers, throwing something different that the Blue Jay batters were looking for. Smoke looking for breaking ball. He gets a cut fastball that splits home plate. High enough. 1 down.
Devin Travis 2 for 5. A couple of singles. We mentioned these two teams a year ago. Played as close as you could get. Blue Jays won 10 of the 19 matches. They were 10-9 against the Orioles. And then, of course, they won the biggest game of the year, the wild card game. Travis, what a play by Machado from his knees. Oh, my. That looked like a double. Then you thought maybe an infield hit. Machado throws him out from his knees.
He's ridiculous. We are so blessed to watch so many great third basemen in the American League. From Josh Donaldson to Evan Longoria to Manny Machado. This had double written all over it. How about his arm getting tucked underneath him as he dove for that ball? Gets up from his knee. Watch his arm underneath from his knee all the way across the diamond to get the out. The Gold Glover does it again. Wow.
I was fortunate to watch Brooks Robinson play a lot in his heyday. As much as I love Brooks Robinson, Manny Machado is right there with him.
He makes it look so easy.
Wow. He is big and strong and has the arm strength to throw from his knee to get Travis. Josh Donaldson bats with nobody on and 2 outs. The game is blessed with so many good young stars. Manny Machado, of course, played for the Dominican Republic in the WBC.
I mean, the strength of the third baseman in baseball. We didn't even talk about Nolan Arenado over in Colorado. He's pretty good. I mean, they're everywhere. Here's
this guy's pretty good.
Yeah, he's not bad.
2-0, 2 outs. Well, when you talk about MVP, certainly you have to consider these 2 third basemen any conversation you have. Donaldson won the American League MVP in 2015. Manny Machado and Donaldson finished 4th and 5th respectively. Trout, Mookie Betts, Jose Altuve. We are blessed to see some terrific players every day.
Kyle Seager in Seattle, Adrian Beltre in Texas.
Seager had 30 home runs last year. Nobody even talks about him.
No. I mean, there's so many good third basemen in the American League.
And that's the gold standard there. Brooks Robinson, of course, was a terrific third baseman for years. The Gold Glover year in and year out. Donaldson lines it to left. Wicker plays it on a hop. He was backed up against the fence in left. Donaldson has 3 hits. Who needs spring training? JD, 3 for his last 3 at bats. Jose Bautista hit into an inning-ending double play in the ninth with two men on. That came off of Zach Britton. Bautista has been a problem for Wilson. Jose is 3 for 4 against the Orioles relief pitcher.
I'd love to see him take advantage of that hole on the right side. You hit one soft to the right side. Donaldson's going to be on third base.
Machado at third goes to second. That'll end the inning. The Blue Jays have stranded 12. Manny Machado putting on a show with his glove. He robs Devin Travis of extra bases and throws him out at first.
The Hockey Central boys are standing by to preview Austin Matthews' Leafs, paying a visit to Jack Eichel's Sabres. They will take you to the top of the hour immediately following the ball game. It's the Leafs and the Sabres, a jam-packed day on this opening day. But
what a day it is indeed, Hazel. It's a terrific ball game and lots more to come on Sportsnet, so make sure you stay tuned. Jason Grilli. He was able to get out of the 10th. Now he starts the 11th. Here is Manny Machado. Justin Smoke moves into first. Steve Pearce goes from first to left. Manny Machado made that terrific play to rob Devin Travis. Here he is leading off the 11th. Machado doesn't turn 25 until July 6th.
Judging by the way his approach is, he's looking to get something up in the air. That front side is opening up pretty quickly, and I think really sees that. He's dished him a couple of breaking balls.
1-1. Jammed him. Popped him up. Travis going out. Calls for it and makes the catch. Really got that fastball inside and jammed Machado. Really got Adam Jones to ground out to end the bottom of the 10th. Now we got the umpire out to talk to Grilli. There's some people in the hitter's background. They've been asked to vacate the area. And Davis will make sure they do before he steps in the box. Chris Davis, RBI single in the third for the afternoon, 1 for 4. First pitch strike.
They'll have their share of strikeouts, these two, Davis and Trumbo. As you make a mistake, they can make you pay. The hits that you were just talking about, the RBI hits, Davis reached out and took one to right field, and so did Trumbo. Good piece of hitting on both of those guys. It's the last time they scored.
Ball and a strike to Chris Davis. Drops it on the outside corner. They told you Davis much more effective against fastballs than off-speed pitches. Take a shot inside like he did with Machado.
If you feel like he's looking out there, maybe you better get it in there.
There it is. Came inside and Davis got a piece of it to stay alive. These two were teammates in Pittsburgh. They know each other very well. They think alike. 1-2. Breaking ball, he gets him in the dirt. Russell will complete the strikeout with the throw to first.
What a great sequence right there from the veteran Jason Grilli. Backdoor slider for a strike. Fastball in on his hands. And then you saw the patience of Russell Martin as he waited for Grilli. Then he looked at Davis. And then you throw the breaking ball inside. As a hitter, you think it's another fastball coming in there. You can see the wild swing from Davis. Great sequence.
Not out of the woods yet. Got to deal with Mark Trumbo. Trumbo had an opposite field RBI double in the third. The Orioles scored 2 in the third. Blue Jays scored a single run in the 5th and 6th, and no one has scored since. We're in the 11th. Trumbo's late on the fastball. Pitching. Jason Grilli is pitching. Took a little off that breaking ball and had Trumbo out in front.
And this is fun, isn't it? Opening day. 2 evenly matched teams. One head-to-head. This is like that wild card game that ended 2016.
Swinging a drive deep to left. Pierce is back. Trumbo has walked off the Blue Jays. His 6th career walk-off home run.
And just like that game, that wild card game ended in the 11th inning on a walk-off home run. Mark Trumbo does it to the Blue Jays. Turnabout of fair play.
The reigning home run champ in the American League. It's his first of the season. Trumbo did not have a home run in spring training. A disappointing finish to this ball game for the Blue Jays. They had plenty of opportunities, just couldn't come up with a big hit.
They left 12 runners on base. And the one big hit, the Orioles get it. Breaking ball. Jason Gurley wanted that ball a little bit further out. It stayed over the middle of the plate, and the home run champ knows what to do with that. Puts it about halfway up the bleachers in left field, and the Orioles have their first win of the season.
What a terrific ball game. A disappointing finish. The Orioles win it 3-2 in 11. Thanks for watching. Here's Jamie Campbell.